This boy failed his entire life. Life was extremely harsh on him. He almost met the legendary truck Kun, but luckily, the traffic light was red. After that, he kept walking and was crushed by a falling pole. That was how he ended up being reborn as Kella, in a world where magic is revered and the weak are treated like trash. But unlike his past life, Kella awakened an absurd talent. He became a supreme genius of creation magic, surpassing every student at the academy. In front of a gaming cafe, a kid mentions that a new map for the game Kang-Chi just dropped. His friend brags that he already hit #1 as soon as he woke up, leaving the other kid shocked. He admits the map is really hard, and his friend comments that the player Kang-Chi can't be human. Nearby, our protagonist eats a skewer while listening to the pair doubt how Kang-Chi is so fast. The protagonist's friend then turns and jokingly accuses him, saying he must be using bots. He continues, asking why the guy eats there if he makes crazy money from gaming. The hooded guy simply replies that the food at this place is really good, and that's why he comes. He changes the subject, announcing that he took first place again, so they better get ready. Indignant, the friend says he acts like it's easy and calls him a bot once more. With a serious face, the protagonist thinks that technically, they're not entirely wrong about him. It's revealed that he is an AI and his only real fun is inside the game. He enjoys fighting monsters and leveling up. That's his true passion. His thoughts conclude, stating that he only has fun in the world of games and creating maps. The scene changes to outside the gaming cafe, with the friend saying goodbye after a day of playing. His buddy reminds him to buy him a snack with his fat wallet, and the protagonist just agrees to get him to leave. Walking alone, the young man reflects on why he's so addicted to that game. He explains to himself that it's because he can't control anything in the real world. In games, everything seems easy, while in real life, things are impossible. Even inefficient telephone poles are things he can't even move. He thinks that if they were in the game, he would change everything with just a click of the mouse. Suddenly, a speeding truck appears out of nowhere, heading straight for him. The vehicle speeds forward, about to hit the distracted protagonist, but reality is very different, and he realizes the danger he's in. An object like a truck can't be removed just because he wants it to. The driver slams on the brakes, and the truck zips right past him. The tires screech on the asphalt, stopping just inches from where he stood. The boy is startled and even jokes that he thought he was about to end up in another world. Furious, the driver yells at him, asking if he was trying to get himself killed. The protagonist simply points to the side with a nonchalant look. He calmly asks the man to check the signal first, which showed the green light to cross. The driver is confused, not understanding when the light changed, and the protagonist walks away. With his back turned, he thinks about how frustrating and limited real life is. If he could change things like in a game, everything would be so much more convenient and practical. With that power, he would finally be able to create the world he truly desires. But suddenly, the cable of a nearby crane snaps with a loud crack. People on the street scream in desperation about the crane, telling everyone to get away. Our hero then sees a little girl standing right under the falling metal beam. He's in shock for a second, but his expression shifts to one of pure determination. The little girl looks up, completely frozen with fear, unable to even move. On impulse, the protagonist runs and shoves the child away from the imminent danger. The ball she was holding flies through the air from the impact of the push that saved her. The little girl tumbles across the ground, thrown a safe distance by our hero. She lands sitting up, terrified, as the young man's thought completes, saying that he can only control his own body. And in the end, the beam crushes the protagonist, who sacrificed his own life to save the girl. Lying on the ground, battered and broken, the protagonist struggles to breathe, feeling his life slipping away. With his vision fading, he wonders if this is what happens, if this is the feeling. And in a final breath, he understands that this, without powers and without control, was real life. Suddenly, his body is floating in a strange purple place, leaving him completely shocked by the situation. He looks around, utterly lost, and wonders where the hell he ended up now. The darkness was absolute, like a black hole, and he questions if he might actually be dead. Just then, a mysterious voice echoes through the void, calling out to him in a very intimidating way. A giant, shadowy creature appears, asking him how the hell of oblivion was for him. Startled, the young man shouts, demanding to know who that thing is and what all this talk about oblivion meant. The entity then explains that death is merely a path to reincarnation, making everything even more confusing. Our hero is speechless, trying to process what those crazy words meant. The being continues, saying it will give him a chance to recover his lost memories. Annoyed, the boy demands that the creature speak in a way he can understand for once, but the entity ignores him, and with a powerful voice, commands the one who has forgotten to open his eyes. Desperate, the protagonist begs him to stop, not knowing what was happening to his body. The young man's eyes change color instantly, taking on a wild, feral appearance. He jolts awake, screaming in panic as he sees himself with demon horns and fangs. Still in shock, the boy leans on a table, trying to understand what is happening. He takes a look around and realizes the whole place looks like a very old castle. Then, he catches his own reflection and is horrified by his new demonic appearance. He wonders how he isn't dead, looking in disbelief at his hands with their sharp claws. The realization starts to sink in, and he thinks he might have ended up in another world, just like in anime. But the sensation when he touches himself is so clear that it all feels very real. He knows for sure that this isn't a dream, and his despair grows stronger. So he just stands there in the hall, trying to piece together this insane puzzle. He wonders where he is and confirms that it really does seem to be an old castle. Confused, he asks himself who he is, but a voice suddenly asks what he's muttering about. The protagonist's eyes widen as he realizes someone else is in the hall. Out of nowhere, a person appears and stabs him in the back, giving him no chance to defend himself. He chokes on blood, unable to believe he's been attacked with a dagger. The demon girl attacks with a sadistic smile on her face, filled with the desire to hurt him. She stands over him and asks mockingly if he thinks he's going to die now. He feels a terrible pain and realizes her blade went straight through the middle of his chest. Still coughing up blood, the young man asks why she launched such a sudden attack. The girl plays dumb, questioning what he means by why. She then reveals that she hates him, and that's why she's trying to get rid of him, lunging at him again. He panics, unable to believe the girl is really trying to end his life right there. But just as she was about to deliver the final blow, someone else appears and stops the sword with their hand. The protagonist looks back, surprised by the unexpected help that arrived just in time. A man with a whip holds the sword, and the girl asks why he's in her way again. Just then, a woman appears and tells her not to do this to her own brother, which comes as a surprise. Our hero is completely lost, wondering what's going on and who these people are. The woman approaches him, lamenting that his sister mistreated him again, and offers him a drink. He thinks it's a potion and drinks it all at once, relieved to have some help. But the woman gives a strange smile and comments that today he's drinking without any suspicion. The young man's eyes widen in pure panic as he realizes he's fallen into a very dangerous trap. Instantly, he vomits a disgusting purple liquid, confirming the drink was poisoned. He clutches his throat, feeling it burn, and screams in pain as the poison takes effect. His sister gets angry, saying she wanted him to die by her hands, not like this. The other woman comments with a bored expression that the poison recipe was a failure again. With his whole body trembling in pain, he wonders why he has to suffer so much. Just then, the giant hall gates creak open, revealing a very bright light. A guard announces that the demon king Hel Khaldun has returned, and the sisters are startled by his arrival. The protagonist hears the word father and becomes even more confused amidst all the pain. The demon king's powerful hand clenches into a fist, showing he is not happy with the scene. And then, the imposing figure of the great demon king finally appears, radiating an absurd aura of power. He asks why he's hearing vile noises, and the protagonist understands that this man is the demon king. The sister tries to save her own skin and blames him, saying he started the whole mess. But the king unleashes his energy and tells her to shut up, silencing them both instantly. He grabs his daughter by the neck, saying it's a humiliation to hear the groans of the weak in his castle. As she's being choked, the woman apologizes and begs her father for a little mercy. Meanwhile, our protagonist thinks that if those two are really his sisters, then that terrifying and merciless demon king can only be his father. The king ignores her plea and says he only wishes to hear two sounds in his castle. The young man becomes alert, sensing that what his supposed father is about to say isn't good. He continues, saying he wants to hear the sound of a demon being born, and that of an honorable death. Upon hearing this, the realization hits the protagonist, and fear takes over him completely. Suddenly, a scream of pure pain and agony echoes throughout the dark castle. The scene reveals the demon king standing in the hall, with several bodies lying at his feet. The poison was still taking effect, and the boy continued to cough up a lot of blood, badly injured. He finally accepts that he somehow managed to be reincarnated into another world, but he can't believe that, of all people, he ended up as the son of this guy. Lying on the floor, he curses his bad luck, unable to accept the situation, and he wonders why, of all the options, it had to be the Demon King. The scene shifts to a flashback, with the protagonist as a child, crying and calling for his mother. He explains that his sister Caldera stabbed his eye with a fork, and his mother only laments his pain. The boy keeps crying, saying his other sister, Tarmi, also poisoned his food. With a cold gaze, his mother tells him that in that case, he needs to take action. She then advises him to pay them back in kind, just like a true demon would. But the boy is scared, and warns her that if he does that, his sisters might kill him. With a cruel smile, she says then he just needs to kill them first before they kill him. The little boy is in shock, a tear rolling down his face as he can't believe her words. We are told that his father killed 12 siblings to become the great demon king. His mother repeats her advice, saying that if someone tries to kill him, he must strike first. At that, she pulls a dagger from behind her back, preparing to teach him a lesson. And without hesitation, she stabs him from behind, making the boy scream in pure pain and surprise. As she hugs him, she whispers that this is exactly how a true demon acts. He screams for his mother in agony, and she asks if he has finally understood the lesson. Back in the present, the protagonist wakes up with a scream, jolting out of the horrible nightmare. A servant approaches the bed and asks if he's awake, finding him panting. He realizes this is the body he reincarnated into, and all of that were Kella's memories. Then he looks at his own body and notices that all his wounds have healed on their own. We are told that Kella has a regenerative ability far above normal. The servant informs him that Lord Kella has slept for a long time, while he stares at his hands, confused. She then tells him to get up as the family meal is almost ready, and he obeys. We're informed that Kella, being more timid, was always despised by his siblings. In a flashback, Rin suggests an outfit, but he complains that his brother's servant dresses him. He then jokes that she could help him too, but the old Kella refuses, completely embarrassed. In another memory, the servant tells him to clean the blanket, and he finds it strange since it's her job. He also remembers finding Rin sleeping soundly in his bed, making herself at home, and even when she sent a doll to do her work, leaving the old Kella shocked. Our protagonist reflects on how weak Kella was, letting himself be intimidated by a servant. But with a serious look, he decides that the Kella of today will be very different. He then clenches his fist tightly, showing all his new and great determination. He realizes that the old Kella was bullied his entire life, and it's not so different here. With a determined look, he understands that in this place, those who seem weak simply die. He then walks with his servant towards the royal family's large dining table. The Demon King glares at him seriously and warns in a deep voice that Kella is late. The king's presence is so overwhelming that the protagonist understands why he's the boss here. He sits at the table and apologizes for the delay, already bracing himself for what's coming. But his sister greets him with a very strong kick from under the table. The surprise attack comes with a stab to the leg, showing the family's affection. He grinds his teeth, trying to endure the pain so he won't look weak in front of everyone. His sister then taunts him, saying he looks weak and needs to eat more. Annoyed, he wonders what would happen if they found out he isn't the real Kella. He controls himself and gives thanks for the food, thinking he needs to hold on for now. At that, our hero picks up the spoon and decides to try the soup on his plate. But in that same instant, he feels the poison taking effect and realizes the food is not normal. His other sister then comments that the soup was made for him and asks if it isn't delicious. Despite feeling the poison, he hides his pain and says yes, the soup is delicious. He looks at his family and thinks with disgust that these demons are nothing to him. With a dark expression, he decides they are not his family, they are just monsters. And with a determined look, he vows he won't be their punching bag anymore and needs to act. A flashback shows that in his past life, he always wanted to achieve things on his own. With this mindset, he ended up being recognized as the best map creator in a game. But he remembers that when it came to real life, it was a different story. In reality, he was a weakling who couldn't do anything to defend himself, and because of that, he never wanted to go through that situation again. He swears to himself that he will never die in such a defenseless way again. Back in the present, his gaze changes completely, showing a new determination. With a sinister smile, he offers the poisoned soup to his sister Caldera, and without warning, he throws the entire plate in her face, making her scream in surprise. Then, he pulls the dagger from his leg and announces he's going to give Tarma his sister's gift. And with a swift movement, he stabs his other sister with the same knife that wounded him. The Demon King is completely shocked by the unexpected attitude of his youngest son. He stands up and questions his father, asking why demons should have happy family meals. Enraged, the protagonist flips the table with all his might and shouts that from now on, everyone eats alone. The whole family is in shock at his rebellion, unable to believe what they just saw. With a look of pure hatred, he challenges them all, telling them to see who will win this fight. The scene then takes us outside the castle, showing the grandeur of the demon's fortress. With a satisfied smile, the young man thinks that the feeling of rebelling was very good, but we are shown that after that, he took a violent beating from his furious father. Even so, he managed to recover quickly, which leaves him quite surprised with his body. He looks at his own hand and can feel a strange power coming from within him. At that moment, he realizes he truly is the son of the Demon King, having inherited incredible powers. Now, the protagonist is curious to know how strong this new ability of his really is. The servant informs him about the demonic power class, but he cuts her off, telling her to stop giving him orders. She is stunned by his sudden change, wondering why he's acting this way. Alone, the young man reflects on this upcoming demonic power class. He thinks that, according to Kella's memories, this is one of the worst experiences he's ever had, but even so, the young man knows he has no reason to skip it, so he's going to face it. The scene changes to the training ground, where the instructor announces that Caldera and Tarm won't be coming today. At this, our hero recognizes some guys in the crowd and immediately gets a bad feeling. He remembers them well from Kella's memories and knows they're bad news. In a flashback, the old Kella trembled with fear, saying he couldn't fight at all. One of the bullies would then say there was no choice since it was a class, and would charge at him. With that excuse, the guy would beat Kella mercilessly, making him scream in pain on the ground. We are shown that these guys are true demons who enjoy the suffering of others. For them, mistreating Kella was a pastime, almost like a very cruel and fun game. Back in the present, one of his sisters appears and tells the guy not to go easy on him. With a sadistic smile, she tells him to show his true abilities, as she allows it. The attacker thanks her happily, and prepares an even stronger magic attack against Kella. But our protagonist only remembers the old Kella begging him to stop the torture. The poor boy hated fighting and just wanted it to end, but no one ever listened to him. Our hero thinks with conviction that the old Kella wasn't really weak. He just had too soft a heart, and that's why he always ended up getting beaten by others. But now everything has changed, and he faces the challenge with a very different look. With a confident smile, he decides he's going to use this new strength the right way. On a training ground, an instructor with glasses asks who was fighting earlier. A red-haired guy answers that it was him and Kella, approaching with a mocking attitude. He keeps provoking him, saying with a smirk that he should have called Kella Sir. Kella gets furious at the disrespect, while the other guy falsely apologizes. The instructor then orders them both to start the second round right there in front of everyone. The redhead gets ready to fight, concentrating a purple energy and asking if Kella is ready. In the crowd, the other students mock them, saying that young Master Kella is going to get beaten up again. He hears the malicious comments, getting even more irritated by the whole situation. His opponent cracks a wicked smile, clearly enjoying Kella's suffering. But Kella thinks that he and his rival are similar in many different ways. The scene changes to a flashback, showing that he was also bullied in his past life. Back then, he had no money or strength, and everyone despised him for it. But he decides that all of that is in the past, releasing a powerful blue aura. His eyes glow intensely, and the energy explodes around his body with full force. The rival is in shock, unable to believe Kella had so much hidden mana. The other students are stunned by the mana, wondering if it's even real. His opponent is paralyzed with fear, unable to move due to the pressure. Kella then advances and says he'll go easy on him, asking him to withstand just one blow. With a blow shrouded in energy, he lands a direct hit on his rival with incredible impact. He finishes the attack with another strike, smashing the guy into the courtyard ground. The crowd is in shock, as his adversary couldn't even react to the attack. Even the instructor is desperate, wondering if the boy died from the hit. But the rival was on the ground, all busted up and spitting blood, but still alive. Kella looks down on him, asking how he dares to speak that way to the son of the Demon King. Terrified, the guy begs for forgiveness, calling him Lord Kella for the first time. He then warns him not to make the same mistake again, or next time he would die. The students can't believe it, because that was definitely the same loser Kella as always. Then, Kella turns and calls out to the instructor, who cowers, terrified of him. With a frightening smile, he asks if the instructor shouldn't continue the lesson now. In the middle of the crowd, the servant Rin also watches everything, shocked by Lord Kella's strength. Rin thinks that he's definitely acting very strange, completely different from his usual self. From a distance, she also sees Kella's father, Hel Khaldun, observing everything from the balcony. In the courtyard, Kella stands beside his rival's unconscious body on the ground. Hel Khaldun just stares at the scene from above, showing no reaction. The scene changes to the family castle, where someone shouts that they can't forgive this. In a medicinal bath, Caldera is furious, but Tarmi asks her to calm down. Tarmi then reminds her that she doesn't have the same absurd regenerative power as Kella, but Caldera freaks out, yelling that this is also strange and she wants to know why. Calmly, Tarmi concludes that it seems Kella has gone through some kind of change. Elsewhere, Kella is furious, shouting that dinner will be separate from now on. The sudden news leaves the entire family, including Hel, quite surprised by his attitude. Just then, Tarm notices something different in her father's expression. Hel Khaldun. It's explained to us that, even if for just a moment, their father gave a faint smile. She's in shock, as he smiled for the first time in their lives right at that moment. Caldera gets even more enraged, screaming that she can't believe her father smiled because of Kella. Tarmi agrees that it's not normal, noticing Kella's sudden change. But Caldera, still angry, asks what she means by that. Tarmi then says she knows Caldera would rather die than join her. The unexpected statement leaves Caldera surprised, not understanding where she's going with this. She then proposes that they stop fighting so they can take care of Kella together. With a smirk, she shows she's very confident in her proposal. Caldera thinks for a moment and agrees that the idea doesn't seem so bad after all. The two then decide they will kill Kella before he draws any more of their father's attention. The scene returns to the classroom, with Kella feeling that something is wrong. Then, the image of a demon with a huge, terrifying smile appears to us. It's explained that this was the former demon king, known to all as Turk Khaldun. The instructor continues his history lesson, talking about the great deeds of the past. Kella finds his appearance horrible, thinking he looks like a real demon. But the instructor explains that Sir Turk only died because of a cowardly plan by the Sky Guild. He continues, saying that ever since, several guilds have gathered near their kingdom. It's explained to us that Kella already had this information in his memory somehow. The scene changes, and we see Kella on the balcony, thinking that because of these guilds he can't even escape the castle, feeling completely trapped. Desperate, he kneels and curses himself for having to live forever in that place. Back in the classroom, Kella listens to everything with a serious and determined expression. The instructor warns that, along with the Sky Guild, they are planning to attack the Demon Kingdom, and to help King Hel wipe them all out, the students needed to train. Therefore, he orders everyone to give it their all in combat classes from now on. The students shout in response, saying they will fight for the honor of all demons, but Kella remains quiet, just observing and thinking about the whole situation. The scene changes, and we see him sitting on the castle roof, looking at the horizon. He surveys the vast territory and realizes he needs to find a way out of there. He knows that if he stays trapped in that castle for much longer, he could die at any moment. He might be killed by his treacherous siblings. Just then, he asks Rin if his father is really leaving in 3 days, and she confirms. He then turns to Rin and asks if she knew something very important. Kella reveals that the castle has a weakness, leaving the girl confused by the sudden statement. He explains that there is no map architect to help use the terrain in battle. Because of this, the enemy guilds are using abandoned territories to attack them. So he decides he will use the time before the expedition to map the entire area. He wants to do this so his father, Hel Khaldun, can destroy every single one of the enemies. With a confident smile, Kella states that he will help his father win this war, but he thinks to himself that now he can finally prepare to truly escape from there. He realizes the map is different from reality, and that he can create it however he wants. Just then, Kella yells for Rin to create a secret office in the castle's basement right now. He explains that he needs a space to work without his father discovering his plan. The scene changes to a dark room, lit only by torches with magical flames. Inside, Hel Khaldun is sitting, releasing an intimidating pink energy. He thinks that Kella won't be able to escape his sight, already suspicious of his son. Then he stands up, deciding he needs to do something before it's too late. Kella's father decides he needs to see what's going on with his own eyes. Back in the basement, Kella makes a disgusted face and asks what this is. Rin shows him the dusty place, and he's disgusted by the horrible office. She says it was the best she could do in secret, but he yells at her to do it right. He thinks that sometimes he needs to treat her more firmly to command respect. The servant gets scared, thinking he's not the same Kella she once knew. But deep down, she feels that despite everything, something about him had changed for the better. She ends up thinking he's become cooler, and starts falling in love with her new master. He then yells at Rin, telling her to stop staring and get him a cup of coffee. Desperate, the servant runs off, shouting that she'll get the master's coffee. Alone in the office, Kella confirms she's gone and that he can start his plan. He looks at the map, thinking that this castle holds no hope or dreams. But with a determined look, he says it's now time to create his own map. The scene cuts to Rin, who runs through the castle halls, still yelling about coffee. Suddenly, she stops in her tracks, realizing she doesn't even know what coffee is. Just then, she hears a deep, scary voice calling her name nearby. It was Hel Khaldun, who asks what she's doing in the basement without Kella around. With a serious look, he demands to know where Kella is at that exact moment. The servant panics and starts to stutter, not knowing how to answer her king. He orders her to answer, but she remembers Kella asked her to keep it a secret. The scene cuts to the secret office door, showing Kella is still inside. He's completely focused on the map, finding it all very fun to do. It's then revealed that he's lucky, as this world is just like a game he knows. He draws on the map and thinks that, deep down, he's having a lot of fun doing this. He remembers that in his past life, the thing he loved most was creating maps. Suddenly, the secret office door begins to shake violently. Then, the door explodes, and Kella is thrown back by the magical impact. It was Hel Khaldun, who yells that he can't believe he created an office without telling him. Kella is in shock, wondering how Hel managed to find him down there. Without a second thought, his father lunges forward and pierces his chest with his bare hand. He then whispers that if Kella wants to kill him, he shouldn't hide like a coward. The young man spits up a lot of blood, unable to believe his own father's brutal actions. He feels an absurd amount of pain and realizes this is the power of the great demon king. His body covered in a cold sweat, he's sure he's going to die for real this time. In desperation, he yells for his father to look at the map he just drew. But Hel holds him in the air and asks what the hell he's looking at on that paper. Even while injured, Kella explains that the castle's surroundings are bad for battles. He says that if they change the geography as he's drawn, the advantage will be all theirs. He guarantees the map will be a great help in the upcoming battles. Hel is surprised by his attitude, not expecting this kind of intelligence from his son. Then, he forcefully pulls his hand back, making Kella scream in pain. His father glares at him on the floor and asks why he created the office in secret. Kella explains that if he had asked to help, his father certainly wouldn't have allowed it. That's why he wanted to show the map only after it was fully complete. The Demon King remains silent, just analyzing his son's explanation and courage. He then says that, as the king's son, he wants to help exterminate the army from the heavens. The two stare at each other seriously, in a moment of great tension between father and son. Rin is terrified, thinking Kella has a death wish for speaking to the king like that. Breaking the silence, his father asks how long he thinks it will take to finish. The question catches Kella by surprise, unable to believe what he just heard. Hel points with his bloodied hand and demands to know how many days it will take to complete the map. Realizing his father understands, Kella replies that 5 days is enough. But Hel reveals that the army from the heavens will gather in just 3 days. He warns that Kella's map will be useless if it takes that long to be ready. But Kella corrects himself, saying he can finish it in 5 hours, not 5 days. The boy's confidence leaves Hel Khaldun shocked, unable to believe such audacity. He guarantees that in 3 days the construction will be ready and asks to lead the plan. His father stares at him, seriously analyzing the proposal and the determination in his eyes. With a surprised look, he seems to consider the possibility for the first time in his life. So he agrees and tells Kella to try and complete the map, giving him a vote of confidence. But as he turns, he warns that if Kella is just bluffing, he will personally tear the boy to shreds along with that map he drew. Even while bleeding, Kella confirms with a smile, promising he'll do his best. With that, the Demon King finally turns and leaves the secret office. Alone, Kella celebrates, winking and happy to have convinced his father. But suddenly, the pain from the wound returns with full force, and he feels a sharp pang. He can't bear the pain and ends up vomiting all the blood that was stuck in his throat. It's then that he realizes that Demon would have really killed him if he wasn't useful. Rin is shocked, thinking that Kella actually managed to convince the great Demon King. He yells at her not to just stand there and to take him to the infirmary, and she agrees immediately. Already bandaged, he announces that, as promised, he completed the map in just 5 hours. With that, the castle's forces gather and begin a large-scale construction. The kingdom's mages use illusion magic to hide the entire construction area. They transform the area's geography so the enemies won't notice the change. Kella thinks that his new map was being created exactly like it was in the game he used to play. With a satisfied smile, he concludes that everything went exactly according to his plan. The scene changes to the Sky Guild's camp, where someone screams in total shock. It's the Guildmaster Hermison, who discovers they're transforming the battlefield. A knight explains that they found out the demons were using illusion magic. He then asks if they should attack and stop them, but the master becomes thoughtful. With a serious look, Hermison replies that, no, they won't do anything for now. He gives a little smirk, thinking that doing so now would be useless, as it was already too late. It's then revealed that in 3 days, the strongest squad from Talua would arrive. It's then revealed that the strongest elite squad, the Talcan, is on its way. It's explained that this squad was formed over decades and is finally complete. Hermesen laughs, saying they will defeat the Demon King Hel with this elite troop. Flying on a dragon, the squad leader shouts that they will reach the castle in 2 days. With that order, their entire army advances at high speed towards the enemy. The general declares that the Demon King's 1,000-year reign will finally come to an end. They all charge forward screaming, ready to burn the demon castle to the ground. A red-haired commander remarks that General Kilman's leadership is truly incredible. Just then, a soldier asks Commander Srills if they can really pull off this hunt. She replies with a smile, assuring him that the Talcan squad is different from the others. With great confidence, she states that they will definitely kill the great Demon King. The scene returns to the Demon King's castle, where the main tower stands tall. Seated on his throne, Hel Khaldun realizes Kella wasn't bluffing about the map, but he admits that, despite everything, his son's plan wasn't perfect yet. His body was already at its limit, so he couldn't afford to be picky. With determination, he thinks that tomorrow he would finally settle things with the army of heaven. Meanwhile, the mages hurry, as they didn't have much time to finish the job. The workers also rush to move everything faster, following their orders. From the window, Kella and Rin watch everything, and he comments that the plan is progressing well. He reflects that the feeling of creating a map in real life is very different from the game. The young man is impressed that he can change the geography of the place however he wants. Now he just had to wait for the great battle between heaven and hell to begin. With an eager look, he prepares himself, as tomorrow would finally be the big day. The next day, the Talcan squad finally arrives at the meeting point with much celebration. The general thanks everyone for coming and announces that his squad is ready to fight. Excited, Hermesen agrees and yells for everyone to head to the Demon King's castle now. At that, the general also shouts, ordering the squad to advance and bring victory to Talua. Suddenly, a teleportation circle glows brightly in the middle of the enemy camp. The same glow appears on the ground of the encampment, leaving Master Hermesen very confused. The general of the Talcan squad panics, not understanding what's happening. He yells that it's a surprise attack and orders everyone into a defensive formation, but an energy blast hits the area, sending several soldiers flying. The general and his men raise their shields, wondering what that was. One of the guild knights is shocked, thinking this is impossible. From the midst of the blue smoke, the silhouette of a massive demon appears before them all. It's then they realize it was the Demon King, Hel Khaldun, in person. The general is terrified, having no idea how he got to their base. The scene cuts back, and Kella explains that he removed the surveillance magic that Heaven was using. He assures him that now his father can teleport without anyone from the enemy army seeing. On his throne, Hel Khaldun considers the idea of teleporting directly to Heaven's base, but Teldera appears, asking her father to wait and not invade the enemy base like this. Tarme also arrives, saying that it's too dangerous, even for her father. Hel becomes furious and asks if they are doubting the power of the Demon King. They try to explain, saying he still hasn't fully recovered from his injuries, but he tells them both to shut up and warns them that he will make the final decision. He then declares that tomorrow, he will kill every single one of his enemies without mercy. The scene returns to the battle, and the general shouts that the bastard caught them by surprise, but he vows they'll make Hel regret it, because they are the Talcan squad. With that, he raises his weapon and orders the entire squad to begin an all-out attack. Hel Khaldun concentrates, releasing a blue energy aura to prepare for combat. His energy explodes with full force, creating a giant crater on the battlefield. Far away, Kella is on top of a tower, watching his troops gather. He thinks that he has finally gathered all his forces to begin the attack. With a determined look, he shouts that all preparations are finally complete. Then he gives the order, commanding all his monsters to charge forward now. Following the order, a horde of orcs and other creatures advances on the enemy. One of the knights despairs upon seeing the castle's forces coming at them. Suddenly, bizarre monsters start emerging from under the ground, catching everyone by surprise. The soldiers realize they're in an ambush and shout to stop the demons from advancing. From the top of the tower, Kella just clenches his fist tightly, watching the scene. He stares at the battlefield, taking in everything that was unfolding. With an evil smile, he confirms that everything is going according to his plan. But suddenly Tarmi appears from behind and calls out to him, saying she's finally found him. She says she doesn't know why he did this, but his plan won't succeed. Sildera also arrives, warning that she wouldn't be doing this if he hadn't crossed the line. Shocked, Kella turns around and sees his two sisters there, ready to betray him again. With a green energy weapon, Tarmi tells him to die, as there's no place for him here. Without hesitation, she lunges forward and runs Kella through the stomach with a swift, precise strike. The energy blade pierces his body, causing a very serious wound to the young man. He looks down, feeling the immense pain of the blow and screaming in agony. With a smile, Tarm gets ready and calls for Seldera to finish the job now. Then Seldera moves in, saying that not even his regeneration can save him from this. With a single blow, Seldera rips off Kella's head, shouting that regeneration is useless. The two sisters then let out an evil laugh, enjoying the tragic scene before them. Kella's head flies off, and he's shocked by the betrayal, unable to believe what just happened. In that moment, he realizes this is his end, defeated by his own sisters. In a shocking scene, Kella's decapitated body is thrown from the top of a wall. His corpse plummets in a free fall as rain and a strange energy fill the sky. We get a close-up of his head falling, eyes wide with shock and terror, and then the body and head hit the ground with a dull, violent thud. Even on the ground, Kella's head is still in agony, trying to let out one last breath. Up on the wall, Tarm and Seldera watch the scene, celebrating that they've finally defeated him. But suddenly, a blade with a blue aura appears out of nowhere, completely surprising Tarm. It was Seldera, who stabbed her ally in the back, shouting that she found her weak spot. She mocks Tarmi's speed as she mercilessly shoves the dagger even deeper. Tarmi looks at the weapon, shocked, as she recognizes her mother's forbidden dagger. But Seldera doesn't care, saying rules are useless and weapons are made to be used. Tarme is furious at the betrayal, questioning if her sister would really do this. With a wicked smile, Seldera warns that if she kills her now, she'll be the only one left. She reveals that this way, she'll become the sole remaining successor to take power. Feeling the pain and rage, Tarm grinds her teeth and screams Seldera's name. Filled with hatred, Tarme charges forward, screaming that she'll kill Seldera for her betrayal. Seldera steps back with a smile, saying the fight was over the moment she stabbed her. The two then exchange a violent blow, releasing an energy that explodes across the courtyard. The camera focuses back on Kella's head, which was watching everything from the ground. He reflects on how they could be so cruel, wondering about the nature of demons. But then he realizes they were exactly as he'd always imagined them to be. At that, the scene returns to his body, lying motionless in the middle of the courtyard. Suddenly, the blood and body parts begin to reassemble in a bizarre way. It's revealed that Rin was using a strange magic to manipulate Kella's body. She then picks up his head and calmly walks toward the corpse on the ground. Rin sits down and carefully begins to reattach the head to his neck, but Kella suddenly revives, grabbing her neck with a brutal and terrifying strength. The scene cuts to distant mountains, where a general commands his troops to advance. He orders a portal to be opened, planning to attack the heavens from behind. But on the other side, a human army was already waiting, shouting that they knew their tactic. The human commander then orders the attack, screaming to leave no demon alive. But the demon general doesn't care, ordering them all to fight for the honor of their race. With that, the two armies clash with full force, and the battle finally begins. In the midst of the chaos, a red dragon appears, preparing a fireball in its mouth. It then unleashes a powerful blast that tears through everything in its path. General Killman faces the attack, remarking it's been a while since he'd seen a dragon's breath. Mounted on the beast, Hel Khaldun smiles, controlling the furiously roaring dragon. The demon then leaps from the monster's back, landing on the ground with a heavy impact. Killman is enraged and screams in anger as the bastard managed to barely escape. Quickly, the human commander orders everyone to unleash their attacks at once. The demon army charges forward without fear, rushing toward their enemies to attack. Suddenly, a giant blue energy creature materializes behind the demon army. Killman watches the dust settle, wondering if they managed to hit the target, but to his surprise, he realizes the attack didn't work, and the monster is still standing. We see a close-up of the creature's arm, which glows with a cold, powerful energy. The creature reveals itself, saying that what happened before is no longer important. He assumes his complete form, warning that he only needs to kill everyone there. Desperate, Killman yells that the enemy is planning to fight with everything in its final form. He then orders everyone to risk their lives and give it their all. The creature's eye glows intensely, releasing a wave of power that intimidates everyone. The scene then shifts back to the castle, with a much darker and heavier atmosphere. We see a light coming from a hole, showing that the previous fight opened a passage. Down below, Rin was trembling as she held Kella's head back in place. His neck was bloody, and he was begging her to continue the process. She then screams in desperation, pleading for it to work quickly. A flashback begins, with Rin shouting about how disgusting it was and wondering when she would get used to it. Kella, missing an arm, screams in pain and tells her to hurry up and put it back. We see a close-up of her pressing the limb into place as he writhes in the agony of regeneration. With a sweaty face, Rin fearfully asks if the process was finally over, but Kella looks at his hand and confirms that, as expected, it had worked again. He then announces that the next step would be to do the same with his head, terrifying Rin. Kella explains he needs to test it with his head, leaving Rin completely distraught at the idea. He asks her to cut it carefully, but Rin refuses and screams that she doesn't want to do it. The flashback ends, and back in the present, Kella says that's enough experimenting for now. He then instructs Rin to find Caldera's servant and tell her exactly what he said. The girl is visibly tense with the task, but she knows she can't disobey his orders. With a nervous performance, she goes to the other servant to pass on the false information. Rin says that Kella is planning to kill the young master Caldera in the middle of the battle. She adds that he will attack while the Demon King is fighting against the heavens. Caldera's servant is outraged, unable to believe that bastard was planning such a betrayal. But then Rin, very cleverly, suggests this would be the perfect chance for Caldera to strike first. She assures her that cutting off his head would kill him, regardless of his recovery speed. The scene returns to the battle, and Hel Khaldun grinds his teeth, annoyed that the plan worked. Back on the ground, Rin holds Kella's seemingly lifeless body in her arms. She calls him an idiot, since the plan would mean nothing if he actually died. But he suddenly opens his eyes, asking who she was calling an idiot. Rin is terrified and screams his name, not believing he was alive. He gets up and mentions that his healing slows against mana-infused daggers, and he almost died. But with a victorious smile, he declares that he survived and everything is still going according to his plan. Relieved, Rin starts to cry, unable to hold back the emotion she was feeling. She then hugs Kella tightly, yelling that she really thought he had died. Totally embarrassed by the situation, he blushes and asks what the hell she's doing. Kella pulls away and tells her he survived, so she can stop because he needs to go now. Then, he summons the contract seal, declaring that he will break the pact between them. With his hand outstretched, he grants complete freedom to his servant, Rin. A magical aura surrounds the girl, who is in shock and can only whisper his name. He explains that now that the contract is over, she has no more obligations. With one last smile, Kella turns and tells her to live the life she always wanted. Rin stands paralyzed, completely speechless at her master's sudden action. He then walks toward a light, preparing to leave the place for good. A flashback reveals a young Kella asking her to be his friend, not his servant. Back in the present, the memory makes Rin cry as she understands his feelings. She runs and yells for him to take her with him, but Kella tells her not to follow. Rin insists she'll go with him, but he yells that she'll just get in the way. The scene cuts back to the battle, and a wounded General Killman calls Hel Khaldun a monster. It's revealed that Hel's arm had also been torn off, gushing blood onto the ground. But even completely battered, he was still standing, which left Killman utterly shocked. The general realizes that the being before him was the great demon himself. Angrily, Killman admits it's frustrating, but he just can't defeat this guy. He realizes it doesn't matter who comes, because no human can stop this disaster. Then, Hel silently turns his head, observing the destruction caused by the long battle. He sees that the human army was almost completely annihilated in the clash. His eyes continue to scan the field, analyzing the outcome of that terrible war. And the same happened to his own soldiers, who were also mercilessly slaughtered. The camera focuses on another of his fallen warriors, showing the brutality of the combat. With a bloody mouth, he starts calling for Caldera, Tarmi, and also for Kella. We see up close that it wasn't just his arm. His neck was also slashed. He then closes his eyes and realizes that, in the end, his children will not come to help him. But he concludes that this was his fight, and he will use every last drop of his mana. On the battlefield, Hel declares that now everything will finally end, releasing his energy. Far away, Kella and Rin were running desperately through a dark tunnel to escape. He then spots an exit of light, realizing it was the way to escape surveillance. With a relieved smile, he thinks that once he gets there, he'll finally be free. But suddenly Rin stops him, yelling for him to wait, and leaving Kella confused. A barrier of blue lightning appears out of nowhere, completely blocking their path. Another purple energy appears, and Kella wonders what it is, smelling blood. The two look on, frightened, as Kella confirms the strong scent of blood he smelled earlier. A hooded figure appears, mocking Hel Khaldun for trying to evacuate his children. He reveals he knew to hide there, leaving Kella and Rin cornered. And to make matters worse, it wasn't just one, but an entire squad waiting for them. Kella becomes furious, realizing the enemies had placed a watch team at the exit. The squad leader reveals he knew about the construction and won't let anyone from the royal family escape. He points directly at Kella and orders his men to kill him without a second thought, but Rin steps in front and creates a shield, yelling for her master to run while she holds them off. Kella is shocked and asks what she can do alone against all of them, but Rin yells that she is his servant, and her priority is to protect him at all costs. He remembers that her magic is only for defense, and she can barely use any attacks. With that, he understands that Rin is planning to sacrifice herself so he can survive. She then turns and yells for her master to hurry and escape as fast as possible, but Kella doesn't obey and grabs her by the shoulder, interrupting her defensive action. Suddenly, he throws her back forcefully, yelling about her acting so high and mighty. He warns her that if she's going to follow him, she should at least not die right in front of him. With a furious look, he adds that it would make him really pissed off at her. Fallen on the ground, Rin is completely shocked by his attitude and words. The enemy mage scoffs, saying there's no way they can escape now. He prepares to attack, saying that mid-class magic is more than enough for Kella, but Kella grits his teeth and warns that he's always been shy and never used his power. He unleashes an aura of lightning, revealing that everything they know about him is a lie. Rin watches from a distance, wondering how Master Kella could be so strong. The mage is shocked, as he thought Kella's mana was low level. But before he could react, Kella rushes at him with absurd speed. With a single blow, he lands a direct hit on the enemy, who screams in pain from the impact. Staring at the fallen mage, Kella mockingly asks if that's all he's got. He then warns him that next time, he should check his sources properly. Then, Kella grabs the mage's face, who desperately begs him to wait, but he doesn't listen and smashes him into the ground with a blast of blue energy. The man passes out instantly, sunk into the ground and agonizing from the blow's injuries. Rin can't believe it, as he defeated a sky mage using only his mana. The other mages accuse him, saying he was supposed to be nothing but a powerless weakling. Kella simply replies that he already told them that information was wrong. Seeing they have no choice, the two remaining mages prepare to use a forbidden spell. They know it's an attack that will use all their mana at once. It's a risky gamble, because if the attack fails, they'll be the ones to die in the end. Seeing the danger, Rin runs and desperately yells for her master to fall back and get out of there. The spears of light pierce through Kella's body, who is shocked by the surprise attack. But it was actually Rin who jumped in front, taking all the damage and screaming in pain. Kella tries to move, but realizes his body has been paralyzed by the spear's magic. With her last bit of strength, Rin turns and calls her master's name, badly wounded. She then apologizes, saying that unfortunately she couldn't protect him this time. The two mages breathe a sigh of relief, as their risky attack worked perfectly. The leader prepares for the final blow, warning that this was the end for Kella, but his partner suggests they deserve a reward after all their hard work. He then grabs Rin with a disgusting smile, asking if it wouldn't be fun to play with her. Outraged, she yells that she knows everything they've done against the demon race. The mage threatens her with a dagger, telling her to shut up and wait her turn. Watching the scene, Kella realizes that the humans of this world treat others like objects. The leader then turns to him, saying he'll first kill the Demon King's baby. Kella looks at the exit, unable to believe he's going to die when freedom was so close. He is filled with hatred, as he was just one step away from escaping it all. The mage charges forward with his dagger raised, yelling for him to die once and for all. Seeing the scene, Rin desperately screams Master Kella's name, unable to do anything. But suddenly, Kella is confused, as a strange energy begins to surge around him. He feels a weird sensation and realizes that something very powerful is coming from within. Kella despairs and screams for Gulpero, facing the imposing figure of Hel Khaldun. He's shocked, wondering if the battle had really ended so quickly, but Hel Khaldun, with a serious look, laments that his plan was ruined. At this, Kella panics, not understanding how everything could have gone so wrong. Hel then begins to explain, saying he has already fought and considered all possibilities. The boy remains confused and asks what he was talking about, not understanding a thing. Hel reveals that Teldera doesn't care enough about the other demons to become queen, and that Tarmi also lacked the necessary ambition to take on such an important role. Kella gets angry and yells that he doesn't care about them, demanding to know how Hel got there. He then reveals that a demon king can pass his mana to his bloodline before he dies. The young man is in shock at the revelation, stuttering in disbelief. We are shown that even for a short time, his father managed to be king. With this, Hel states that he saw in Kella the best candidate to be a true demon king. Desperate, Kella throws his hands forward and shouts that he was gravely mistaken. But Hel Khaldun formally introduces himself, ignoring his frightened son's pleas. Hel decides to pass all the remaining mana in his body directly to his son. He then declares that his heir's name is Kella Khaldun, the future king. With that, a dark and powerful energy surges toward the terrified boy. Kella screams in desperation, begging his father to stop this madness right now. But Hel stares at him with a serious gaze, calling Kella's name one last time. He then asks his son not to mourn his death, but to act like a true demon. The scene cuts to the battlefield, showing Hel Khaldun's blood-covered face. Commander Shrills, panting and wounded, whispers the name of the great demon king. She then announces to everyone that the demon king was finally dead. In the background, we see the fallen body of General Killman, his spear cast aside. It's revealed that the general sacrificed himself for them to achieve this victory. Shrills falls into despair, screaming and mourning the death of her companion. The news spreads, and the other soldiers are shocked to learn what happened. A cry of euphoria echoes, celebrating that the demon king Hel Khaldun has been defeated. But at the last second, Hel's eye moves, revealing he heard everything. Kella screams in pain as an absurd and dark energy takes over his body. Just then, a spear of light is shot toward the demons, nearly hitting them all. Rin is shocked to realize that young Master Kella's mana dispersed the attack. The Sky Mages panic, not understanding how his mana increased so much. Suddenly, Kella begins to laugh sinisterly, leaving everyone confused. He raises his head with a malevolent look and whispers his father's name, Hel. The boy then wonders if Hel is truly dead, recalling his imposing image. With a grin from ear to ear, he celebrates that his plan has finally succeeded. Desperate, the mages realize they're out of mana and shout that they need to escape, but Kella steps in front of Rin and, with a serious look, tells her to get back. He feels an infinite void of darkness, realizing this is the power Hel gave him. Terrified, the mages scream for the demon to stay away from them at all costs. Kella becomes furious upon hearing the word demon and asks what they said to Rin. A purple aura explodes from his body, and he lunges toward the two humans. With hatred in his eyes, he screams that they are the real demons here. In the blink of an eye, Kella throws the two mages against the wall with brutal force. Fallen on the ground, the men groan in pain, completely defeated by the young demon. Kella then stares at his accomplishment, recognizing that this absurd power came from his father, Hel, but he realizes this is putting too much strain on his body, which can't handle so much energy yet. Worried, the boy turns and asks Rin if she can still move. The servant, still a bit frightened by everything, replies that yes, she can walk. With that, Kella decides it's time to get out of there, and the two begin to flee. He walks toward the exit, thanking his father for managing to escape the castle. The scene changes, showing the two moving away as the castle burns in the background. Kella then breathes a sigh of relief, tasting freedom for the first time in his life. He starts to laugh, a laugh of pure happiness and satisfaction at his success. Now, with a confident smile, he says he can go wherever he wants and live as he pleases. But suddenly, a beam of blue light appears out of nowhere, cutting across the sky. Kella is caught in this strange light and asks what it is, as Rin gets scared. The girl then screams in a panic, warning that it's a teleportation spell. Kella is completely shocked by the light, not understanding what's happening. In an act of desperation, he yells for Rin to grab his hand quickly, but the girl is paralyzed, staring in fear, unable to react in time. With that, a giant pillar of light descends from the sky, engulfing the young demon. The scene cuts, showing us an overhead view of a city full of houses. It's then revealed that the place is an island, which seems to be some kind of academy. Just then, the same beam of blue light appears, pinpointing the exact arrival location. Kella and Rin look around, and he angrily asks where the hell they ended up. Rin looks around, completely lost, and calls out for her master, Kella. She then says she didn't know he could use teleportation magic, but he denies it. We're told it was an alarm spell of sorts, causing an image of hell to appear. Kella reveals that his father placed it on them, in case he died one day. Just then, Rin realizes all her wounds have been healed, leaving her surprised. He deduces they must have spent about 3 days inside the teleportation space. He believes his father did it on purpose, so they could heal during emergencies. Rin is shocked, realizing it was a healing and teleportation spell all in one. Kella reflects that by placing these spells, his father truly cared about his children. With that, Rin asks if the Demon King had really died, and he confirms it. The boy turns with a smile, stating that everything went just as he had planned. The servant then makes a decision and starts talking to her master about the future. With a determined look, she asks him to become the next Demon King. Kella turns in surprise and asks why he would do something like that now. She explains that seeing how he has changed, She realized he is the only one worthy of the throne. Rin swears her loyalty, promising to do her best as his servant until he becomes king. Kella is completely confused, thinking she probably misunderstood his plan, but he sighs and ends up accepting since he's in need of a little help. The girl is surprised by his answer and asks him to wait a bit for her. The scene cuts, showing a giant, beautiful castle surrounded by many trees. As they walk, Kella recognizes the place, making both him and Rin very apprehensive. It's then revealed that they are in the country of magic, a place called Arsal. There, they train young talents with the sole purpose of defeating demons. A giant banner confirms the news, celebrating the death of the demon king, Hel Khaldun. Kella and Rin panic, unable to believe they ended up right in the middle of enemy territory. He becomes very worried, knowing what could happen if they were discovered there. Rin then suggests they use transformation magic before anyone can see them. He agrees immediately, and the two prepare to quickly change their appearance. Now disguised, Kella asks Rin to tell him everything she knows about the place. She explains that Arsal is a small island on the eastern border of the kingdom of Talua. Rin explains they are blessed by a giant cryptid named Watergore, which lives in the sea. This blessing allowed for the natural development of magic, and thus they trained very powerful mages. As part of the Talua kingdom, they have been enemies of the demons for a long time now. Kella listens to everything and wonders why his father sent him to such a dangerous place. At this, Rin gets desperate and says they need to get out of there as soon as possible. But he calmly explains to her that escaping requires some preparation first. The boy knows that to achieve his dreams in this world, magic is very important, and in this country, he realizes that absolutely everything is done through the use of magic. Even the common buildings use magic, and some even float in the sky. He thinks that if he learns the magic from here, he'll be able to build more things than he could in the game. Suddenly, Rin's stomach rumbles loudly, leaving the girl dying of embarrassment. Seeing this, Kella decides they should get something to eat first. She then grabs Arsal's famous magical dish, her eyes sparkling with desire. They both try the food and love it, and she shouts that it was absolutely delicious. All excited, Rin already points to the next stall, wanting to try a little of everything. Rin tries some bread and yells that it was also delicious, with Kella by her side. She starts pointing at everything, and he seriously considers just leaving her there. Then, they find a magic bar, and Kella sighs, telling her to relax a bit. Inside, a man announces free drinks to celebrate the death of the Demon King. Commander Sreels raises her mug, and everyone shouts the name of the great mage of Arsal. The crowd carries her on their shoulders, celebrating the victory of Sreels of Talcan. Kella and Rin, who are lightweights, join the party and celebrate the free drinks. Already a bit drunk, he thinks that maybe taking a break isn't such a bad idea. But suddenly, Commander Sreels notices the young man and becomes very interested in him. Kella and Rin keep drinking and laughing, already quite tipsy from the alcohol. With a mischievous smile, Sreels thinks they make a very interesting couple. Kella is sick on the street while Rin scolds him for drinking so much. She remembers he was the one who suggested drinking, right during the festival for his father's death. Just then, a man runs by, shouting to everyone that there's a new S-rank mission. Kella and Rin are confused, and he wonders what all the commotion in the city is about. It's explained that until now, the only S-rank mission was to hunt the great Demon King. Rin is shocked, wondering how there could be another mission of this level now. Curious, she decides to go see and drags Kella by force through the crowd. A new poster on the wall reveals that the Demon King's children are still out there. In the middle of the crowd, Kella and Rin stare at the poster, completely shocked by the image. Rin points frantically, as the new S-rank wanted target was young Master Kella himself. He freaks out and yells that his father is already dead, not understanding why he's the target. Rin quickly covers his mouth and plays it off, saying he's just really drunk. People comment that since it's Kella, the weakest son, the mission will be easy. Thinking it'll be just another B-rank quest, all the hunters get ready to go after him. Kella gets angry, realizing he needs to hide if he doesn't want to get caught. Kella turns with a serious look and tells Rin they need to leave. As they walk, she hesitates and asks what she should call him in public. He stays silent for a moment, thinking of a good name to use as a disguise. Then, he tells her to call him Chiwu, leaving the girl very confused by the choice. She questions what kind of name that is, and he yells at her to just obey. Rin comments that the situation is bad, as she didn't think they'd find him out so soon. But suddenly, Commander Sreels appears in front of them, right as they're trying to escape. With a smile, she asks if it's true about the new S-rank mission. Kella confirms awkwardly, and Rin says they were just taking a look. He then remembers that in the bar they called her the Hope of Arsal, and he realizes her importance. Sreels takes a sip, thinking that the Demon King's son is still alive out there. Kella and Rin whisper that the target is weak, so it won't be a big deal. The commander overhears their conversation and stares at them with a very suspicious look. At that moment, they both feel a chill down their spines and sense the imminent danger approaching. Shreels grabs Kella and asks if it's not a big deal that the Demon King's son is alive. Shreels stares at Kella and says she noticed something strange about them from the start. Rin panics immediately, thinking the commander has figured out their disguise. With a terrifying smile, the woman then says that the two of them must surely be. Kella and Rin are terrified, certain she's discovered their true identities, but she reveals they're just travelers who don't bathe and invites them to her house. The two are completely baffled, totally confused by the commander's invitation, but they immediately accept and celebrate, thinking they're finally safe from danger. The scene then takes us to a fancy mansion, with buildings floating under the moonlight. Inside, Kella relaxes in a luxurious bathtub filled with warm water from hot springs. He also receives a cup of tea and snacks he'd never seen before in his life. The boy picks up one of the sweets and wonders if it was also made with magic. He then reflects that he always wanted to live in a game world, just like this one. Closing his eyes, he feels that his dream has finally come true. With a smile on his face, he thinks that this whole isekai thing isn't so bad after all, but Rin despairs, remembering that if they get caught, they'll definitely die. In the other bathtub, Shreels asks Rin if she thinks the place is pretty cool. The commander finds her nervousness strange and jokes that she looks like a captured demon. Rin gives a forced laugh, trying to play it off and saying it's nothing like that. Just then, Shreels raises her hand and creates a magical sphere of light right in front of her. She then announces with a smile that she's going to use a scent to help the girl relax. But Rin panics, as the scent is of the holy element, the worst for demons. She realizes it will break her disguise and immediately holds her breath. In her thoughts, she desperately screams for help, calling out for young Master Kella. Meanwhile, Kella is super relaxed in his bathtub, completely oblivious to the danger. Shreels starts to vent, saying she thought all her suffering would end with the king's death. But Rin panics and yells that she doesn't want to hear it and needs to get out of there. The commander continues, revealing she was destined to be a mage since birth. Unable to take it anymore, Rin leaps out of the water and screams for her to save the memories for later. She then makes up an excuse about needing the restroom and runs out of there desperately. Shreels is left behind in the tub, a very suspicious smile on her face. She then thinks with a laugh that the girl must not have liked the sacred scent. Outside the bathroom, Rin breathes a sigh of relief, thinking that was a really close call. Just then, Kella shows up, completely relaxed, and praises the hot water of the thermal springs. Rin gets angry and yells that her disguise spell was almost broken in there. She explains that Shreels used a sacred scent, which makes demons lose their mana. Kella gets serious and agrees the situation could have been very ugly for them. He then jokes about taking another bath, making Rin even more annoyed with him, but Shreels appears and asks if they're leaving already, mentioning a second round. Kella awkwardly confirms, while Rin tries to play it cool so they can escape quickly. Shreels insists they stay, asking if they aren't curious about the magic drinks. The young man is captivated by the idea, as he's never heard of food magic. He then accepts the invitation, to Rin's despair, who screams her master's name. The scene cuts, showing a group of mages arriving at the commander's house at night. One of them asks if there are really demons there, and the other confirms the information. Their conversation reveals they're not just any demons, but the Demon King's son. They see this as a unique opportunity and decide they must capture them no matter what. Meanwhile, inside the house, the commander's trap is in full swing. She serves a drink and reveals the special beverage was made with holy water. Kella feels his body burn and complains that he got excited about the magic food for nothing. The commander ignores him and returns to the conversation they were having about her life. She says that to kill the king, she trained, risking her life in the Talcon squad. Then, she reveals a scar on her stomach that she got from a test back then. Kella and Rin are surprised, and he comments that he hadn't seen that scar before. With a sad look, she asks if the scar isn't beautiful to look at. She then reveals she's actually missing an eye, leaving the pair shocked by the news. Kella and Rin are speechless, unable to believe what they just saw right in front of them. The commander explains she was hiding everything with magic because the scars bring back terrible memories. In a flashback, an instructor yells for everyone to get up and think about the Demon King. It's shown that the squad was created with the sole purpose of defeating the great king. A young Shreels, despite being covered in bruises, knew she had to endure all the pain to win. The instructor then yells again, ordering them all to state their true objective. With hatred in her eyes, she answers that everyone's goal was to kill the Demon King. Back in the present, she says she sacrificed her life to get those scars. Then, she gets close to Kella and asks what he's been doing all this time. She lifts his shirt, saying he surely must have a scar there too. The young man is in shock at her action, not knowing how to react to the situation, but she's surprised, as his skin is smooth and has no scars at all. Rin watches everything in desperation, calling out to young Master Kella in her thoughts. He then realizes her touch is slowly undoing his magical disguise. Srills leans close to his ear and calls him by his fake name, Chi-Wu. With a dark look, she bluntly asks if he's really a demon. Kella is in shock, realizing the commander knew everything from the very beginning. But suddenly, several white rats with red eyes come running into the room. Just then, a group of mages bursts in, using a very powerful lightning spell. The commander feigns surprise, yelling that the mages appeared out of nowhere. Kella and Rin look at each other in terror, figuring out she lured them into a trap. Srills then turns with a smile and says it's good that they all came. The leader of the mages points to her eye and says the message from the heavens was right. He then accuses her, shouting that she was just hiding her true identity. It's revealed that Shrills is actually a demon who infiltrated the kingdom of Arsol. Everyone is left speechless by the news, while she faces them with a smile. Kella is confused, realizing they aren't there for him, but for her. With a staff in hand, Srills says she has no more reason to hide. She then reveals she was the one who leaked the information that she was a demon. The leader of the mages yells, "There's no reason to hesitate," and orders everyone to kill her. But Shrills faces them with a confident gaze and warns that she is an elite mage from Talcon. She says she isn't someone that mere mages from Arsol can defeat, and unleashes her mana. At that moment, their disguises break, and Rin yells for Master Chi-Wu to get out of the way. He panics, shouting that the situation has gotten really ugly for them now. Then, a giant explosion of purple and blue mana engulfs the entire hall. The dust slowly settles, revealing the damage from the battle that just took place. Rin is shocked, unable to believe the powerful mana she felt coming from the commander. Kella and Rin are confused, and he asks if she just protected them. She then turns and confirms they are also demons, as they can't hide it from her. With a smile, she reveals herself as Shrills Khaldun, the daughter of the Demon King, Hel Khaldun. Kella and the girl beside him are completely shocked by what they just heard. Commander Shrills then announces she's going to use magic to transfer her memories. The magic hits them both, leaving them paralyzed in shock by the visions. A flashback begins, showing Hel Khaldun next to a mysterious hooded demon. The vision shows a little girl on the ground, a demon who could hide her horns. Suddenly, she realizes the man in front of her is Hel, the Demon King. The imposing Demon King then reveals that his blood runs through her veins. In a firm voice, he finishes by saying this made her his daughter. The little girl is in shock, unable to believe she's the daughter of the Demon King. The memory continues, and she remembers being treated like a lab rat. Every day was hell, with terrible experiments being performed on them. She was forced to undergo painful tests along with the other children. The only thing little Shrills could do was endure all the pain in silence. In the end, all the other children born with her died in the process. Alone and desperate, the little girl could only cry over her sad reality. She thought she would die just like the others, her eyes filled with tears and despair. But then, still on the ground, she wonders if what she heard was really true. As she stared at Hel Khaldun, she couldn't believe she was the Demon King's daughter. Suddenly, a smile appears on her face, and she says it's a great honor. Hel then decides to give her a name, christening her Shrills Khaldun. He orders her to infiltrate heaven as a spy, and she readily accepts the mission. Motivated, she thinks that for her father, Hel Khaldun, she would do anything. The scene changes to the front of a castle, where someone shouts they saw a person on the ground. Two men run over and find little Shrills, thinking demons had attacked her. One of them picks her up, saying they need to take her inside and care for her. And as she was being carried, she began to act as the Demon King's spy. From then on, she trained hard and endured everything to become a mage of Arsol. Finally, after much effort, she managed to level up even further. Shrills became one of the strongest in the elite Talcon squad. 15 years pass, and the image shows the former Demon King, Turk Khaldun. At that moment, she finally managed to find her father again after so long. With a heavy heart, she wanted to run and hug him, but she couldn't. With tear-filled eyes, she thought she was close to achieving her goal. The plan was to wait until all the soldiers, except for Kilman, were dead. Her mission was to use hidden magic to disrupt the Talcon squad from within. And with that, she would support her father until he finally killed General Kilman. She dreamed that when her father won, she could finally return to the castle with him. All she ever wanted was to live a new life by his side, as Shrills Khaldun. The scene returns to the fight, and Kilman praises Turk's power, saying he exceeded expectations. But the former Demon King replies that he doesn't need recognition from a human like him. With a defiant smile, Kilman calls him arrogant and prepares for the end. He then announces this is his final attack, one where he's putting his all into it. Then, a spear of celestial light forms, charged with an absurd amount of energy. Turk doesn't back down and prepares his hellfire to counter the blow. Seeing the power of both attacks, Sreels desperately screams her father's name. A giant explosion occurs, and Sreels stands there watching from a distance. But in that instant, she can hear her father's voice in her mind. In a vision, Turk Khaldun calls her by name, saying she was his daughter. Sreels is in shock, as he was about to give his next and final order. He asks her to serve the next demon king just as she served him, and that she should protect him until the end, making Sreels start to cry. With the order given, the explosion consumes everything, mixing the two energies. The dust begins to settle, slowly revealing the outcome of the battle, and all that was left of Turk Khaldun was his head, now falling from the sky. Desperate, Sreels watches her father's remains turn to dust. Unable to believe it, she can only say that no, this couldn't be real. The image of her dying father is seared into her mind, and she screams for him. After watching her father die, she had no choice. Support forces arrived, so she had to return to Talua with them, and while she suffered, the people celebrated the victory over the Demon King. People from all over the continent, including Talua, celebrated her father's death. After that, she decided to retire from her life as a commander. So Sreels returned to Arsal, her second home and the site of her first mission. She thought she would start over in that place with a fake smile on her face, but in reality, her only goal was to avenge her father's death at any cost. The flashback ends, and she reveals she planned to wipe everyone out, starting with Arsal. The gray-haired girl is shocked, unable to believe she is the Demon King's daughter. Kella despairs, as he thought he had finally gotten rid of his demon siblings. Even though they weren't blood-related, he didn't expect to find another sister. Sreels then says she won't force them to cooperate, but she will tell them one thing. She explains that Arsal, the country of magic, is a great threat to demons, and the longer they let Arsal exist, the sooner Kella Khaldun will die. The warning makes Kella tense, understanding the danger is very real and direct. He clenches his fist, remembering that even in the game, mages were a significant force. With a determined look, he understands that if he lets this go, he's the one in danger. The leader of the mages realizes the explosion will attract people, and that they need to act. Urgently, he yells for everyone to use as much mana as they can in the attack. Kella is furious because even though they thought he was human, they attacked him without a second thought. The servant Rin is frightened by the change, calling out for her young master. Now with horns and a sinister aura, Kella says this is just self-defense. At that moment, Commander Sreels suddenly turns around, startled by the energy she felt. With wide eyes, she simply can't believe what's happening. She then recognizes that energy and wonders if it's her father's power. That night, they fought an endless battle against the mages of Arsal. Since Arsal was like a second home to her, Sreels knew the entire layout of the place. Using this knowledge, she attacked the city's key points with her magic. She mercilessly destroyed the government facilities and the magic academy. Kella also used Hell's mana, advancing against powerful enemies. He went after those who were drunk on power from the festival. With his blue energy, he subjugated everyone who stood in his way. The soldiers could only scream for help, but it was already too late for them. Through the siblings' teamwork, the nation of magic, Arsal, was easily destroyed and conquered by the demon duo. The entire city was in flames, and the sky turned red from the fire. The leader of the mages on the ground says he can't believe Arsal fell so easily. With a bloodied face, he screams that he will never forgive the demons. Amid the destruction, one of the surviving mages yells in anger and despair, but Kella replies that he's the one who can't forgive them for everything they've done. With a maniacal smile, Sreels declares she will finish everyone off, starting with them. Kella and the girl are shocked by her madness, thinking it's impossible. Tired of the situation, Kella says his help is over and they should each go their own way. But Sreels stops him, saying she recognized his mana and calls him Kella Khaldun. Surprised, Kella realizes there's no point in hiding who he really is anymore. With a sigh of defeat, he just confirms his identity to her. She's shocked she was right, and Kella gets annoyed for falling for her bluff. Sreels then admits she was only a little suspicious, but now she was sure. She explains that she's not a normal daughter, but a mutant created from her father's aura. The commander approaches him, saying she was created after he was born. With a smile, she calls him older brother, leaving Kella terrified. Changing the subject, she invites him to join her in avenging their father's death. Kella angrily thinks that he ran away from home and doesn't care about this revenge. With an intimidating look, Sreels asks if he's trying to run from his responsibility. She then says he is the last remaining bloodline of the Demon King, the only living son. Scared, the girl asks Kella to just agree, as Shreels looks like she's going to kill them. Kella then claims he will get his revenge, but thinks he has no other choice right now. Satisfied, Shreels tells them to go and that they will burn everything to the ground. He just agrees, while protecting the frightened girl by his side. In his thoughts, Kella reveals that he needs Arsel's magic, and Shreels knows everything. So he decides to use revenge as an excuse to buy time and treat her as an ally. Fallen on the ground, the leader of the mages watches the group of demons leave. Hidden, he tells himself that he urgently needs to report this to Talua. The scene changes, and a messenger arrives at the castle saying he has urgent news from Arsal. The great king of Talua, while eating, asks what the important message is. The man explains that Shreels from the Talcan squad is a demon, and the mages tried to kill her. With a serious look, the king stops eating and asks what happened next. The messenger finishes by saying that Kella Khaldun appeared and burned Arsal down with her. The king is shocked by the news, gripping his fork so tightly that it bends. He yells furiously, not believing the Demon King's son was in Arsal. The advisor then says he thinks Kella might have some connection to Shreels. Outraged, the king complains that if the news of Arsal being burned down leaks, it will be a problem. The man beside him agrees, saying it will make everyone laugh in their faces. Filled with hatred, the king orders them to kill Shreels and Kella before the people find out the truth. The advisor, named Hayden, swears on his own name that he will manage to kill them both. After making the promise, he turns and leaves the throne room with determination. Hayden then stops in front of a cube where Turk Khaldun's head is displayed. Looking at the trophy, he complains that Hel Khaldun's bloodline won't stop troubling him. He then vows to burn everyone who carries that demon's blood. The scene changes, and someone asks for news about Killian's squad. Hayden explains that General Killian must have already received the message to return, and in a distant place, a mysterious figure named Killian is finally revealed. Hayden explains that Killian is the best knight there is, surpassing even the legendary Killman, and to succeed in killing Kella and Shreels, they will definitely need his help. The scene changes, and Killian, holding a scroll, asks if his brother Killman is dead. The messenger then confirms, saying he bravely sacrificed himself to kill the Demon King, but Killian doesn't seem to care and says angrily that he was killed by a demon. The man then informs him that the kingdom of Talua needs him to hunt Kella Khaldun. He replies that he doesn't care what Talua wants, but since demons killed his brother, with a dark aura, he vows that he will kill every demon on the continent. And with a look full of hatred, he finishes by saying he'll start with Kella Khaldun. Back at the camp, Kella has a bewildered look on his face, not understanding a thing. Around the campfire, Shreels says that piece of meat is barely enough for her. Rin then asks what her secret is to not gaining weight, and Shreels gives a nonsensical answer. The girl is shocked by the theory, thinking it's a miraculous discovery. Kella thinks that at least she isn't trying to kill him like his other siblings. He then asks if she holds anything against him for being their father's biological son. With a terrifying look, she confirms she does, to the point of wanting to kill him. But then Shreels explains that because he has their father's blood, she can't bring herself to hate him, and because of that same blood, she feels she actually needs to protect him. Kella is surprised because unlike his siblings, she wants to take care of him. At that moment, she places her hand on his, making an important promise. With a smile, Shreels swears she will risk her own life to keep him alive. Completely embarrassed, Kella thanks her, blushing bright red, which leaves Rin in shock. The little demon freaks out, shouting and asking why he was blushing like that. She then tries to force him to eat, but he says he's not hungry. Rin swears she will protect his health to the death, making Kella feel awkward. Night falls, and the news about Arsal is sure to attract many demon hunters to the area. Shreels warns that the place isn't safe and that they need to find somewhere else to sleep, but Kella disagrees, saying this is the perfect spot, leaving Rin confused. With a smile, he guarantees that with a little effort, it will become a fortress. Kella and Shreels then use their magic to change the terrain and create a hideout. While resting in the makeshift base, he took the opportunity to review what he learned from the fight. He realized he needed to rest after using a lot of mana, just like the Demon King used to. Shreels, who used more power, needed even more time to recover, and so they managed to rest safely, protected by the secret fortress. The scene changes, and a trumpet sounds, announcing the arrival of an important squadron. It's the second Talcan squadron, the White Talcan, led by none other than Killian. A guard then announces to the king that the famous squadron has finally arrived at the castle. The king gets chills just looking at them, impressed by so much concentrated power. With a smile, he welcomes his strongest squadron, the White Talcan. One of the knights, Deed, comments that Captain Killian has gotten much stronger. With a smile, He says that General Kilman would be very happy to see this. Killian hears the comment but remains silent, showing no reaction. Suddenly, an elf yells at Deed, telling him to shut up and show some respect. Deed then complains about her loud voice, saying she's the same as always. At that, another squadron member asks if they really need to obey the king. He says his anger won't subside, even if they kill Kella Khaldun right now. Killian apologizes to his companion, Kalka, interrupting the conversation. He then says he has something he needs to show a woman named Curdly. The scene changes, and the squadron enters one of the main halls of the castle. Inside, he stares at Turk Khaldun's head and says he's finally found him. With a cold gaze, Killian calls him Hel Khaldun, his brother's murderer. Deed makes a disgusted face, but the others immediately tell him to be quiet. Killian then asks Curdly if the tracking spell works with just the head. She confirms it does, and begins to use her magic to find his bloodline. The tracking magic begins to glow intensely, activating the power within the demon's head. Killian stares at the face, and tells Hel Khaldun to keep his eyes wide open and watch everything. With a sinister smile, he tells him to watch what they do next. The eye of the former demon king seems to watch intently, as if understanding the threat. The scene changes, and Shreels shouts that now that they're rested, they're going to get the enemies. Little Rin is confused by what she said and asks about the second squadron. Shreels then explains that in Talua, no one had much hope for the first squadron. She reveals they were basically used as an experiment, as bait for the Demon King. The squadron Talua really invested in was the second one, the famous White Talcon. Kella gets a serious look, repeating the name White Talcon in his mind. She continues, saying it's the squadron led by Killian, Kilman's younger brother, and that they are an elite troop, formed only by true combat geniuses. Kella then asks if Kilman, who killed his father, was weaker than them. With a clenched fist, she says she didn't want to admit it, but the truth was quite clear. She confirms that yes, Killian's squadron is much stronger than Kilman ever was. In fact, she can't even estimate how much more powerful they really are. Hearing this, Kella finally understands the magnitude of the danger they are about to face. Little Rin panics and asks how they're going to invade Talua now. Shreels explains they need to attack as fast as possible, before the squad gathers. Kella thinks that Talua is much larger than Arsal, and that luck alone won't be enough. With a determined look, he seems to have come up with a plan to handle this situation. He then warns that with the mission to hunt him, the White Talcon must have already returned. Kella says it makes no sense for the three of them to attack alone, and that they need an army. The two are surprised and ask what he means by an army and a base. He explains they need an army strong enough not to lose to the White Talcon, and a base that won't fall, even if Talua's soldiers attack with everything they've got. With a confident smile, he reveals they're going to build the strongest dungeon in existence. The girls are in shock, unable to believe the idea of creating the strongest dungeon. He explains they can't risk uncertain battles, so they don't end up like his father. The plan is to create the dungeon, and only then start a real war against Talua. Shreels is impressed and says he truly is his father's son, but deep down, Kella is relieved he managed to make all that up on the spot. Excited, Shreels says she knows some people they can recruit for the army. The two then start shouting and celebrating, getting ready for the coming war. Kella just watches, thinking they really liked his idea, but deep down, he knows this is the only way he can buy some time. With a smile, he thinks he'll do this to create his own world without interruptions, a world he had only managed to imagine, but never bring to reality, his own perfect world, where he could finally have some peace. Clenching his fist, he refocuses on the plan he just came up with. He then asks Shreels if she knows any trustworthy demons. Kella explains that first, they need someone who understands geography and terrain. Shreels thinks for a moment, trying to remember someone who fits that profile. Suddenly, she says she knows the perfect person and tells them to come with her to meet them. And so, the group sets off on a new journey in search of their first ally. Along the way, Kella took the opportunity to start learning Arsal's magic from Shreels, but he realized it wasn't something he should be able to learn so quickly. But thanks to the Demon King's blood, he could use magic with great ease. Because of this, he was able to learn everything very quickly, surprising Shreels. Kella feels that using magic with his own hands brings him closer to his goal. The scene changes, and 4 days pass as the group travels through a deserted land. Shreels says they're almost there, but Kella finds it strange that a demon would live there. She then explains the place wasn't always like this, not until the Talcon's ambush. The protagonist and Little Rin are confused, not understanding what she meant. Suddenly, Shreels gets serious and tells them both to stay put, no matter what happens. Just then, a band of demons attacks, shouting against the Talcon squad they hate. One of the demons charges straight at Sreels, swearing he'll finish her. She then realizes they haven't heard about her and her reputation yet. Rin panics and asks why she's taking a beating without doing anything, but Kella tells her to be quiet, leaving the little girl even more confused and scared. With a calm look, he tells them to just stay out of it and let things be. The demons become furious, asking why they refuse to fight back. With her head bowed, Sreels apologizes to the demons, showing her remorse. She then kneels and says she'll accept their anger until they feel better. The group's leader is shocked, as he recognizes that symbolic pose that only they know. As a fellow demon, she apologizes for having allied with their enemies. They are confused, remembering that the last time she was with the Talcon. At that moment, Kella steps forward and confirms that what she's saying is true. With a blue aura, he introduces himself as the last remaining son of Hel Khaldun. The demons feel the powerful energy and realize he is indeed the king's son. The leader then asks if he is really the young master Kella, still in disbelief. Upon confirmation, they all run towards him, filled with emotion and hope. The earth demons then kneel and greet him as His Highness Kella Khaldun. Little Rin gets all excited, calling out young Master Kella's name. With a smile, Sreels remarks that they recognize him as the rightful heir. Kella just watches the scene in silence, processing the whole situation. The camera reveals they lived in an underground village, hidden from everyone. It was a simple place, serving as a refuge for all those earth demons. With a smile, he thinks that maybe creating his army won't be so hard after all. One of the earth demons shouts, announcing the arrival of the great demon king's son, Kella Khaldun. At this, the entire crowd goes wild, raising their fists to celebrate the great heir. One of the leaders then approaches, saying he'll prepare everything and that Kella just needs to give the order. But Kella seems to be analyzing the place, thinking that the architecture is very different from what he knows. He's impressed to see the city was built without magic, using only natural materials. The crowd continues to celebrate, as Kella thinks he never imagined such a large city could be hidden away. He then turns to Sreels and admits she was right. They need the talent of these people. With a smug smile, she says that on top of that, there's an excellent warrior they should recruit. Kella is intrigued by this information, asking who this warrior might be. The scene then flashes back to the past, as Sreels explains that the Talcon squadron discovered the location. We see General Kilman, who, furious, orders his men to kill all the earth demons without mercy. The Tuluan soldiers then attack, beginning a massacre against the defenseless demons. The people scream for Golpero, but they are slaughtered with no chance to fight back against the surprise attack. It's then explained that, on the general's orders, the forest that hid the city was burned down. Because of this, the earth demons were pushed to the brink of extinction, as we can see from Sreels' expression. But then, a furious warrior appears, shouting and questioning how they dare attack a people who don't even know how to fight. He stands in front of the children, warning that he won't let anyone touch them. General Kilman is surprised, wondering what kind of demon would risk his life for the young ones. Intrigued, he approaches the warrior and asks for the name of such a brave man. The warrior then answers with pride, saying his name is Douglas, son of the earth demons. Kilman repeats his name under his breath, seeming to reflect on the demon's attitude. With a thoughtful look, the general seems to make an important decision about what to do next. He then laments in his thoughts, saying it would be different if Douglas had been born a human. At that moment, Kilman surprises everyone and shouts for them to stop the fight as they are leaving immediately. Douglas is left completely stunned, not understanding why the enemy was suddenly retreating. With a smile, Sreels turns and tells him that his bravery saved his entire tribe. The warrior remains silent, still processing what just happened in the middle of the battle. The image shows Douglas, who stayed behind protecting the children as the army withdrew. Back in the present, Sreels finishes the story, saying he didn't run and tried to save the children until the very end. Xildera is impressed, while Kella comments that even the name Douglas sounds trustworthy. Kella grows thoughtful, as an earth demon who knows how to fight is more than he could have hoped for. He then makes up his mind and says he'd like to meet this Douglas in person, but the elder gets nervous, saying that Douglas is very stubborn and it would be better to find someone else. Kella rejects the suggestion and, determined, says he's taking Douglas one way or another. The scene then takes us to a workshop, where black smoke and the sound of hammering emerge. Arriving there, Kella confronts the warrior and asks if he's refusing to obey an order. Douglas doesn't even turn around and replies that he has no obligation to obey him, even if he is the king's son. Unfazed, Kella asks what would happen if he decided to use force to convince him. The warrior then faces him, sweating, and warns that in that case he'll die fighting to the end. Kella then changes his tone, asking why he wants to stay here so badly. And Douglas explains that he was born here. He continues, saying he has a duty to protect his homeland, and that's why he can't leave. The prince then realizes this won't be easy, and comments that he's just as stubborn as they said. Even so, Douglas apologizes, but remains firm in his decision not to abandon his people. Kella gets frustrated, remembering how hard it was to get a strong ally like him in the game. Disappointed, he sighs and thinks there's nothing he can do, since the warrior would rather die than go with him. Kella remains silent for a moment, listening to the sound of hammering from the workshop. The sound of hard work echoes throughout the city, showing the strength of its people. He then goes for a walk, thinking about how efficient the architecture here really is. At that moment, he realizes he truly wants someone with their knowledge to serve him in the future. But suddenly, Srills and Seldera arrive, calling him to try the demon's liquor. He gets angry with them, wondering if they don't see him working hard here. Though reluctant, he eventually accepts and grabs a mug to try the local drink. But with the first sip, he's already affected, tasting something different in the ale. The elder watches the scene, commenting that they're all already drunk and saying strange things. With a smile, he orders his men to take the guests to the finest quarters. Night then falls on the city, ending a very long and emotional day. We see Kella already in bed, sleeping soundly after all the confusion and drinking. He seems to be at peace, recovering his energy for the next day's challenges. But in the middle of the night, his bedroom door creaks open very slowly, and then a mysterious figure enters the room, tiptoeing towards him. The mysterious intruder then raises a huge axe, preparing to strike the sleeping prince. Kella continues to sleep peacefully, with no idea of the danger he's in at that moment. Suddenly, the traitor's identity is revealed, and Rude shouts that Kella is a coward. He then screams with hatred that the prince is going to die right here, today. Douglas is in complete shock, unable to understand how his plan could have gone so wrong. Kella then opens his eyes and, holding the axe, says that now he's sure of everything. The warrior panics when he realizes Kella wasn't asleep, and the prince quickly gets out of bed. Just then, more demons burst into the room, yelling to kill the coward Kella without mercy. Even on the floor, the prince faces his enemies, ready to counterattack at any moment. He then begins to explain, revealing he had been suspicious of everything from the start. The scene cuts back to the workshop, where Kella explains he found it strange what Douglas was forging there. The prince thought it was odd that he was making things that clearly weren't combat weapons. We see they were actually shackles, and Kella noticed they would never fit an orc. To make matters worse, while investigating the town, he noticed someone following him from a distance. From then on, he started observing everything much more carefully, paying attention to the details. And that's how he ended up finding a wall with a very subtle magic barrier. A barrier he only noticed because he inherited the powerful mana of his father, the Demon King. But Kella reveals there was another very strange point in this whole story. He remembers Srills saying that Douglas was protecting young dark elves, not earth demons. The problem, he continues, is that he never saw any dark elves in the village, and that's when it all made sense. With a look of certainty, Kella finally understands the Earth Demon's entire plan. He then unleashes a powerful blue energy, lunging at the invaders with everything he's got. With a single blow, he takes down one of the henchmen, showing he wasn't messing around. Kella turns to Douglas and reveals that he didn't say he couldn't let the elves die, but rather that he couldn't hand them over. This means he didn't care about protecting them. He just didn't want them taken from him. Douglas panics, not understanding how the prince managed to figure out his entire plan. With a serious look, Kella then asks if they should go and release that magic barrier. The scene cuts outside, where a crowd of earth demons begins to stir. Kella appears holding Douglas hostage, shocking everyone as they see their great warrior captured. He then realizes everyone was in on the plan, because it would be impossible otherwise. The elder is furious at the failure, yelling at Douglas for ruining everything. Completely defeated, the warrior can only apologize for his great failure. Kella then threatens the crowd, warning that if anyone moves, Douglas will die instantly. Their leader is outraged, wondering how the coward Kella managed to turn the tables. The scene then shows us a more remote part of the village, where the real secret is hidden. Kella then takes Douglas to the wall and, in a serious tone, orders him to open the door. Though reluctant, the warrior takes a purple gem and uses it to deactivate the magic barrier. The secret passage finally opens, revealing a dark cave full of people inside. And to everyone's surprise, we see they are young dark elves, all scared and trapped. Kella is speechless at the sight, while Douglas maintains an angry expression. The prince is horrified, realizing they are in a much worse situation than he had imagined. Just then, Srills and Seldera arrive running, worried and shouting Kella's name, but they are also shocked when they see what was hidden behind that wall. Kella then turns to Shrills and asks if she can use her magic to see the memories of one of them. She replies that it's possible, but warns that his vision won't be as clear as hers. The prince then nods in agreement and asks her to please begin the spell. Shrills concentrates, preparing a powerful spell to initiate the memory transfer. The magic then connects Kella's mind with one of the elves, beginning to show the past. In the first memory, he immediately realizes that life in that place was a living hell. It's revealed that the mothers were forced to get pregnant, and that all life there was born that way. And among these children, some were handpicked by mysterious human nobles. The chosen children were then taken by force while their mothers could do nothing. This was because the young elves could be sold for a large sum of money. Sometimes, some captured adults would tell them about what the world outside was like. They spoke of the endless sky, and also of the bright blue oceans. They told stories of fantastic foods and what it was like to be able to travel freely, things they knew they could never learn or experience in that horrible place. And so, if they had a single wish before they died, it would be a very simple one, that at least their children could get out of there and experience all of it for themselves. Kella finishes the vision and, with eyes full of hatred, calls that existence pathetic. Furious, he explodes with rage and screams, cursing the earth demons with all his might. He then turns sharply towards Douglas, who doesn't understand his reaction. Kella lunges at him with everything he has, unleashing his blue aura and preparing a strike. And with a furious shout, he lands a solid punch right in the warrior's face. Douglas is thrown back by the blow, hitting the ground hard without even understanding the attack. Kella then shouts, asking if he was trying to smuggle the children instead of saving them. On the ground, the warrior admits it's true, as dark elves are a rare race coveted by nobles. He continues, explaining that they are loved by nature, which is why they can live peacefully wherever they are placed. Then, Douglas reveals his plan, saying this makes them perfect to be raised like cattle. Shrills is disgusted by his coldness, questioning how he could enslave other demons. But he yells back, saying they are essential for them to survive against the humans. Kella then clenches his fist tightly, his blue aura glowing ever more intensely. He remembers how miserable it was to endure his father's oppression his entire life. But the prince realizes that the pain of those children is far greater than anything he has ever gone through. That's why he decides he can't just stand by while something like this happens right in front of him. Kella then turns to Shrills and Seldera, ready to resolve the situation once and for all. With a determined look, he declares they will finish the job Kilman left behind. Shrills agrees immediately, saying she can't forgive these traitors to their own kind. With that, Kella declares they will cleanse this place, wiping out the earth demons. Douglas then gets up, urging everyone to help him fight, since there are only 3 enemies. At his command, the earth demons charge the group, screaming that they're going to die. Seldera manages to fend off a blow, warning that the remaining orcs are attacking. At this, Shrills becomes furious, questioning how they dare to rebel against the heir of the Demon King. But one of them shouts not to retreat because Kella is a coward and they don't have to obey him. Seldera immediately retorts that Lord Kella will be the next Demon King anyway. An enemy then attacks the prince, screaming for him to die, but Kella manages to block the strike. He then realizes this isn't a game, and that he can change things with his power. With a determined look, he prepares to finally counterattack with full force. The prince then decides he will no longer stand by as he did before, and that now he will fight. Meanwhile, one of the elves gets scared as a demon shouts to kill them all right there. One of the elf girls then wonders if they might be doing all of this to save them. Hearing this, one of them decides that if it's true, they need to help in the battle too. But when he tries to go, a companion holds him back, warning him that it's dangerous and to come back. The other prisoners also scream, because if the group loses, they'll be tortured again. The young elf is terrified just by hearing the word, repeating in shock if it was really torture. His memory then flashes, showing one of the demons brutally assaulting him. At that, the boy screams in pain, remembering all the suffering he has endured there. Kella just watches the scene, his blue aura still glowing and his eyes filled with pure fury. He then turns to Douglas and declares he will return every scream of pain they have caused. But the warrior realizes he can't win and pulls a red ore from his pocket. He swallows the stone and yells for everyone to eat one too, because losing to them means losing everything. The other demons then follow his lead, starting to eat the ores they had stored. Kildera is astonished at the sight, as she thought the earth ores were just a legend. Kella is also startled, baring his teeth and asking what kind of power had just emerged. When consumed, the ore exchanges a part of a demon's life for power. Shrills adds that it increases their physical abilities dozens of times over. Douglas's body begins to swell, tearing his clothes as he lets out a hateful snarl. The transformation continues in a bizarre way, and he warns that he's going to kill Kella right now. With enormous fangs and a monster's face, he screams that he'll finish the prince off for good. Kella is shocked, as their demonic energy increased along with their physical strength. He gets frustrated, as he still can't use all the abilities Hell gave him. Then Douglas charges forward with a powerful strike, shouting for the prince to prepare for what's coming. The heir is terrified, baring his teeth as he realizes the danger of that attack. But suddenly, giant roots sprout from the ground, blocking the strike just in time. Douglas is surprised by the interference, not understanding where it came from. The roots then trap him, and he struggles, screaming and asking what this is. The image reveals it was the young elf, Wood, who placed himself between Kella and the monster. With his body trembling, he says he doesn't want to be tortured again, never again in his life. The other elves panic, screaming that he's gone too far this time. Douglas becomes furious, threatening to torture him to death for daring to get in his way. But before he can break free, he seems to feel something and is confused for a moment. It's Kella, who grabs him and declares that what he said will never actually happen. With a swift strike, he pierces the monster's chest, who can't even react. After defeating him, the prince turns to the elf, asking if his name is Wood. With a smirk, he says he thinks he likes the boy's courageous attitude. Wood just stares at him in silence, still stunned by everything that just happened. Even wounded, Douglas screams at Wood, demanding to know how he could betray him after he raised the boy himself. He then forgets the torture and shouts that he'll kill the boy right here, right now. Kella is shocked, realizing the enemy's body has grown even larger than before. Ignoring the pain, the monster charges at the prince, preparing a powerful blow. The blow lands squarely on Kella's defense as he tries to block the attack with his arms, but the force is so great that he's thrown backward, unable to stop the impact. The prince is sent flying, slamming hard against the cave wall, reeling from the blow. Lying on the ground, he wonders how the magic of that stone can be so strong and dangerous. But Douglas ignores him and turns his attention to the elf, shouting that he's going to finish Wood. He then lunges forward and grabs the boy by the neck, ready to avenge the betrayal. With a look of pure hatred, the monster screams that he's going to rip his head off. Wood gasps for air, struggling and trying to break free from the deadly grip on his neck. Kella realizes he's gone mad, more focused on killing Wood than on fighting. The boy continues to suffocate, feeling his life slowly drain away from the pressure. Seeing this, Kella realizes he needs a long-range attack to solve this. In desperation, Kella focuses his gaze, begging for any kind of power to turn the tables. Suddenly he finds himself in a strange place, with no idea where he is or what happened. Then, a shadowy figure appears and laughs, explaining that he's inside his own consciousness. Kella turns around, irritated, asking the shadow who the hell it is and what it wants, but the figure reminds him that he needs to save the boy, and that time flows differently here. Hearing this, the prince remembers Wood, realizing the danger his friend is in. He then desperately asks if the shadow has a way to help save Wood right now. The entity explains that he isn't ready to use the full power that Hel Khaldun gave him, but it says that as his mind and body align, he'll be able to unleash more power. Kella doesn't care about the explanation and yells for it to just tell him what power he can use now. The shadow then agrees, revealing an ability he can use at this very moment. It says goodbye, calling him by his two names, leaving the prince completely shocked. He's in disbelief, wondering how that mysterious shadow knew his old name. His consciousness then returns to the real world, still trying to process what just happened. And on his arm, a blue energy forms, and he recognizes Hel's fire arrow. Seeing the energy weapon, he realizes that with this, he might have a chance to win. He then aims carefully and yells for Wood to shield his body from the incoming attack. Douglas looks down in shock, not understanding how that hole appeared in his chest. Meanwhile, the young elf continues to suffer, agonizing in the furious monster's hands. Angrily, the villain throws the boy aside, cursing him for interrupting his fight. Kella then glares at him with hatred, warning him that this is the end of all his dirty deeds. Then, the prince fires the energy arrow, putting all his strength into the attack. The blue fire arrow flies forward with an intense glow, carrying an impressive power. Douglas is utterly terrified at the sight of the attack, with no chance to escape. The attack hits him dead on, and he screams in pain as a blue explosion consumes him. Utterly desperate, the monster screams for Golpero, but it's already too late for him. Kella watches from a distance, confirming that his attack was a direct hit. The enemy's body then begins to disappear amidst the flames, letting out one last groan. The energy slowly fades away until nothing is left of the great villain. But Kella is left thoughtful, wondering what that thing he encountered in his mind was. Sildera is surrounded by enemies, complaining that there are too many for her to handle alone. Sreels is also in trouble, as she can't use her area of effect magic because of the low ceiling. But Kella tells them not to worry, because with his new weapon, he'll finish this quickly. He then jumps and fires several energy arrows at once at the enemies. The earth demons are hit head-on, screaming in pain from the prince's surprise attack. Sreels is impressed, noticing that Kella's mana seems to have suddenly grown much stronger. With the new weapon in hand, he thinks that now he finally has long-range attacks to use, and with a smirk, he seems quite satisfied, thinking his new ability is pretty great. Night falls over the desert as a mysterious shadow flies across the sky, signaling the end of the battle. As the dust settles, Kella finally says that everything is now resolved and the fight is over. Sreels then picks up one of the oars, commenting that they are much more powerful than she expected. Seldera is surprised by this, as she didn't know those stones burned the user's lifespan. Kella then takes one and warns that they definitely need to investigate this further. He then turns to the elves and in a very serious tone begins to speak to them. The prince opens his eyes and announces to everyone that from now on, they are free. He continues, asking them not to get caught again and to finally live their lives freely. The elves can't believe it, wondering if it's true that they're finally free from that nightmare. With a calm gaze, Kella confirms that yes, they can now leave this place. It finally sinks in, and they get emotional realizing they can take the children far away from there. With great gratitude, they all kneel and begin to thank Lord Kella for everything he has done. Sreels then laments, saying it seems they won't be getting the earth demons as subordinates. Seldera agrees it's a shame, but notes there's nothing more they can do now. But Kella turns to Wood and asks if he wasn't born there, but was captured instead. With a distant look, the young elf confirms that yes, he was captured and brought here. Kella then continues, saying he assumes Wood also has no family to return to. The boy doesn't answer, just stares back at him with a very sad expression. After a moment of silence, he finally confirms that yes, he has no living relatives. At this, the prince extends an invitation and asks Wood to come with them from now on. He explains that they need someone who knows how to navigate the terrain like the earth demons. But Wood says he's not an earth demon and has no talent with terrain. Showing his shackles, he says he won't be able to help the group in any way at all. Kella then reassures him, saying he is an elf who receives nature's love. And besides, he has already shown himself to be braver than anyone in the face of danger. The prince extends his hand and says that's more than enough to join them. The young elf is completely frozen, staring at the prince, not knowing what to say. With his eyes full of tears, he stammers Sir Kella's name, deeply moved. We see a flashback where he remembers not even knowing what his parents' faces looked like. He was abandoned somewhere and ended up being found and captured by Douglas. He remembers being taken there, living his entire life amidst great suffering. So, he lived in this living hell his whole life, without any hope. He thought he would live this horrible way until the day he finally died. Back in the present, he wonders if he can really leave that place forever. With tear-filled eyes, he asks if he can truly follow Kella, but Kella looks at him seriously and tells him he won't just be following him. The prince then corrects himself, saying that actually Wood will go with him as an equal. Then, he helps him up and calls for him to leave, with Wood thanking him emotionally. The scene then changes, and we see the group finally free under the starry night sky. It is explained that they took care of the earth demons and saved the captured elves. Kella was worried, but remembers they are demons loved by nature itself. Therefore, no matter how or where they live, the future will be better for them. It will surely be much better than living in that horrible place from before. Wood then looks ahead, with a determined and hopeful expression on his face. And so, under the moonlight, a new journey finally begins for them all. Caldera starts bossing Wood around, telling him that he's the rookie and has to obey. At that, Kella suggests they find a place with a river nearby. Wood then points in a direction, saying he can smell water coming from there. Though annoyed, Caldera admits he did well, leaving the elf a bit flustered. Kella then gets curious and asks Srills why they're looking for a river now. With a smile, she explains they can't keep walking and need to find a mount. She continues saying they might find something near a river, which gets Caldera excited, but Srills bursts her bubble, saying they'd be lucky to find even a unicorn. Kella then ends the discussion and decides they will follow the direction Wood pointed to. The scene then takes us to a forest, showing the path the group begins to follow. And what do you know? They actually find 2 unicorns, drinking water from a magical, sparkling river. The animals quickly notice their presence, becoming very alert as the group approaches. Startled, the unicorns start running, trying to get away as fast as possible. But suddenly, a giant paw with huge claws stomps down right in front of them, blocking the path. The footprint left on the ground is gigantic, showing that the mysterious creature is enormous, and from the shadows, a white dragon emerges, spreading its wings majestically. Caldera goes crazy, yelling that she wants a dragon, while Srills can't believe her eyes. The scene shifts to a desert at night, where a full moon illuminates the rocky landscape. There, a person in a white cloak finds a fallen earth demon groaning in pain. The survivor then reaches out, begging to be saved with his last bit of strength. The figure is revealed to be a woman with white hair, who notices he's the only one who survived. She stares at him with a calm expression, seemingly analyzing the situation without much emotion. Then the scene changes to a forest, where several bloody bodies lie on the ground. A group dressed in white is camped out, and one of them asks why the tracking spell isn't working. The mage, Curdly, replies that she doesn't know, as she's detecting multiple targets in different directions. A warrior doubts that so many children of hell are left and asks how they'll find Kella. She confirms there's no way to know, and an elf complains they can't hunt all of them. Their leader, Killian, then decides they will hunt the other demons scattered across the continent, but he asks Curdly to start searching for Kella first, to move the mission forward. She says she can teleport alone, and that might be a faster way. Young Deed gets excited, saying that in the meantime, they can do a little cleanup around there. Curdly accepts the order and prepares, vanishing in the blink of an eye to start her search. The mage gets ready to go, and her eye glows with a mysterious energy. With a flash of light, she disappears into thin air, leaving Deed surprised by her sudden departure. The leader, Killian, then gives a smile and suggests they start hunting the demons. Curdly appears in the desert and asks the survivor if Kella passed through there. Angrily, he confirms and says that bastard Kella wiped out his entire tribe. The mage then calmly asks where he went after doing all that, but the demon says he doesn't know, and before dying, tries to ask her to save him. Suddenly, a beam of light pierces through his head, ending his life instantly. Curdly just watches the fallen body, showing no emotion at what she just did. Coldly, she states that he's useless if he knows nothing, and points her finger. She then turns away, deciding she'll have to follow the energy trail she sensed. Looking to the sky, she repeats the name Kella Kalden, focused on her hunt. The scene changes, and Kella's group finally reaches a river with a beautiful landscape. He's impressed, saying that, as expected of elves, Wood guided them just by scent. But Tildera gets jealous, telling the newcomer not to get cocky just because of that. Kella says he's hungry, but Tildera offers to fish, saying she's good at it. But suddenly, several fish leap out of the water, flying towards the group. It's Wood who caught them all at once, leaving everyone speechless. He then explains he used the power of nature, and Srills praises his skill. This makes Tildera very jealous, as she wanted to prove she was the best one there. She then tries to light a fire, but Srills creates one with magic, much faster. Poor Seldera is devastated, feeling completely useless to the group at that moment. With nothing to do, she sits in a corner, sulking and away from everyone else. With the fish on the fire, a delicious smell begins to fill the camp. Kella praises Wood's work, who thanks him, as they all eat around the fire. He then asks Rin if she's not going to eat, but she says she's fine. Srills doesn't think twice and takes her share, leaving the girl surprised by the action. Kella notices what happened and watches Rin with a somewhat worried look. The girl continues to look sad, seeming to hide something from the group. Kella then says he wants some fruit, and Seldera perks up, running off to look for some right away. Wood offers to go, but Kella stops him and says Rin will get the fruit. With a little smile, he then looks at her and asks if she's okay with going. But Caldera gets excited and runs off, shouting that she'll bring the most delicious fruits for her master. Srills just watches, commenting with a chuckle how simple the girl is. She then asks if Kella did it on purpose to cheer her up, but he awkwardly denies it. Kella then changes the subject, and Wood says he smells a unicorn nearby. The prince hopes for a dragon, but Shrills cuts him off, saying there isn't one. Seldera's voice then echoes from a distance, shouting that she found delicious fruit for them. And there she is, running happily back to the group, announcing she found the fruit. Seldera climbs a giant tree, thinking she needs to make her master happy and outdo the newcomer. She then finds a perfect fruit, celebrating that she found a ripe, juicy apple. But suddenly everything starts to shake and she screams, wondering if it's an earthquake. Then she realizes something is very wrong, her expression turning to pure panic. A giant reptilian eye then opens as a low growl echoes through the area. The girl finally understands the situation, realizing she's on a dragon's head. At this, she panics and lets out a terrified scream, yelling that it's a dragon. Around a campfire, Srills asks Wood if he can feel the energy of nature. The dark elf explains that he can, but it's hard to describe the feeling in words. Kella gets pensive, wondering if this ability is anything like a video game map. With a smile, Sreels remarks that it would be great for finding new dungeons to explore, but Wood says the range isn't very wide, so he doesn't know how much help he can be. Kella then asks if there's a way to train to increase that distance somehow. The elf reveals that there is, by consuming the stone of a dragon that has lived for 1,000 years. Kella is shocked by this information, already imagining how incredible it would be to have that power. But Sreels cuts him off, saying it's not easy to find a dragon, and it would be impossible to kill one. Curious, Kella asks her if dragons are really as strong as the stories say. She confirms, explaining that they are the apex predators and that they don't like demons. Apparently, the only ones who can tame dragons are humans with immense mental strength. He finds that quite ironic, since humans are considered the weakest race of all. Sreels smiles and tells him not to even try to understand how a dragon's mind works. Even so, Kella becomes determined, thinking he needs to find a way to get that stone. Sreels gets annoyed, saying it's impossible to find a dragon and that they should just give up. Kella agrees, looking down, but says he wanted to find one to help Wood. But out of nowhere, Rin appears, screaming desperately, running from a giant dragon that's chasing her. The group is in shock at the sight, and Wood can only manage to say that the beast is huge. Sreels yells at him to stop staring and run, while Kella complains about them finding a dragon. The creature lets out a terrifying roar, and Sreels replies that she doesn't know how it appeared either. In the distance, Rin's screams continue, and someone tells her to shut up so she doesn't attract the beast. Nearby, a mysterious figure in a white hood hears all the noise and shouting. It's the mage Curdly, who seems to recognize the sound and pays close attention to what's happening. Then, a magical energy begins to spread across the sky, coming from the mage's direction. The dragon stops suddenly and looks at the sky, seeming to sense the presence of another creature. With that, the beast simply turns and flies away, leaving the group in peace. Hidden, Sreels breathes a sigh of relief, seeing that the danger has finally passed and they are safe. She then scolds Rin, who cries and apologizes for attracting the monster. Wood, still impressed, comments that judging by its size, that dragon must have been over 1,000 years old. Kella gets excited, realizing that if the dragon is 1,000 years old, it must have the clairvoyant stone. He sees this as a great opportunity, leaving the mage Curdly a bit confused by his reaction. The scene changes, showing the whole group sitting down, dejected, as if they were waiting for something. Then, one of them asks who's there, breaking the silence in the air. Sreels jumps to her feet, recognizing the mage as Curdly from the White Talkin squad. The rest of the group panics, thinking they've been found and their escape is over. Without a second thought, they all prepare for combat, ready to fight for their lives. We are told that Curdly is known for being a cold and merciless mage to her enemies. Kella readies his mana bow, frustrated by facing one danger after another without a break. He glares at her with hatred, while the mage observes him with a completely calm expression. Curdly then tells them to calm down, saying there's no reason for them to fight there. The boy doesn't understand her attitude, but he stays in an attack stance just in case. The mage turns to Sreels and calls her a traitor, warning her that fighting here won't do any good. The warrior is in shock and grinds her teeth in anger, not knowing what to say. With that, Curdly unleashes her ice magic, threatening to kill them all with a single spell. Kella asks Sreels if it's true, and she confirms that the mage isn't bluffing at all. With hatred, she says that Curdly is stronger than all of them combined, with no chance of winning. Rin despairs, asking what they're going to do now that they're cornered. Curdly repeats that they don't need to fight, and says they just need to follow her without causing trouble. She adds that if they cooperate, they won't have to die for now. Suspicious, Kella asks where she's planning to take everyone, still holding his bow. The mage stares at him with her blue eyes and begins to say where they are going now. She reveals that she is taking them to the squad's captain, a man named Killian. Sreels is shocked to hear the name Killian, realizing he's finally making his move. The mage explains that her captain is looking for Kella Kalden, so she orders them to follow her. But Kella angrily retorts that if he goes with her, he knows he'll die anyway. Curdly remains calm and says that one way or another, the outcome will be the same. She stares him down, saying that at least he'll get to live a little longer if he cooperates. Kella is frustrated. He dreamed of living like he was in a game and can't accept such a pathetic death. He knows that following the mage means certain death, so he'd rather fight to the end. Determined, the boy unleashes his mana and prepares to fight with everything he's got, to the death. He then focuses all his power into a single attack, firing an energy arrow, but the mage doesn't even move, calmly creating a magic barrier to defend against the blow. Seeing an opening, Sreels yells for everyone to attack, launching her own energy blast. Her attack hits the barrier head-on, but it doesn't seem to leave a single scratch on the shield. Just then, Wood also charges forward, preparing to use his abilities to help in the fight. His power also crashes against the mage's defense, which remains effortlessly intact. With that, all their attacks fail, and Curdly stands still, completely unharmed. Finally, Rin charges with all her might, saying she can't die like a useless burden without helping Kella. She punches the barrier with her dark energy, screaming that she'll protect her master at all costs. But Sreels grows desperate, warning that a close-range attack won't work against that defense. Inside the shield, Curdly just watches her and says that if this is her choice, then so be it. Suddenly, the barrier reacts to her touch, blasting a wave of energy that hits Rin directly. An explosion of ice sends her flying, causing the girl to scream in pain. She hits the ground hard, completely defeated and too weak to get back up. Curdly then loses her patience, saying it's fine if she just takes Kella's body. With that, the mage prepares a powerful spell, gathering a large amount of ice mana. She then fires a magical blizzard towards the group, ready to finish them all. But Rin gets up and runs in front, telling everyone to get close to her for protection. The blizzard crashes against her dark energy shield, which withstands the initial impact. Kella runs to her, worried, asking if she's okay after taking all that damage. Crying, the girl apologizes, saying she can never truly help with anything, but she yells that this is no time for that, warning that her shield won't hold for much longer. Inside the shield, Kella shouts to Shrills, asking if she has any magic to stop the attack, but she desperately replies that the power gap between her and Curdly is just too wide. Outside, the mage continues to unleash her blizzard, giving them no respite. Rin warns that her shield is already starting to crack and won't last much longer. Kella panics, thinking that if the barrier breaks, it'll be the end for everyone there. The scene shows everyone's despair, knowing they're about to die at the hands of that damned mage. He refuses to accept it and starts thinking fast, looking for a way out of this situation. Suddenly, a light goes on in his mind, and he comes up with a risky idea to try and survive. Kella remembers a dark entity that lives within his own consciousness. He believes that if he can find that thing again, he might have a chance to turn the tables. With that, the boy starts screaming, trying to use all his willpower to connect with it. Thrills is startled and asks what he's doing, as his energy is going to shatter the shield, but he doesn't listen and keeps screaming for that thing to come out and show itself. The scene cuts to the dragon, which was flying peacefully, but seems to feel a disturbance in the air. The creature then turns its head back, as if it sensed Kella's call for power. The dragon lets out a low roar, its eye fixed on something it sensed from afar. Just then, Curdly realizes she's sensing Hel Khaldun's energy coming from the boy. She now understands why she couldn't find him before, and continues her attack with even more force. With a smirk, the mage says that unfortunately, it looks like this is the end of the line for them. Kella screams in pain, wondering why he can't enter his own consciousness. He's furious because he thought that power only appeared when he was about to die. Beside him, Sreels panics and screams that the defensive shield is breaking. Curdly ignores everything and continues her ice storm, determined to end the fight. Finally, the barrier shatters completely, and everyone screams, bracing for the worst. Kella looks up in despair, seeing death approach and screaming that this can't be the end. But suddenly, the dragon appears out of nowhere and lands right in front of them, blocking the view. The giant creature uses its own body as a shield, protecting the group from the mage's attack. Everyone is speechless, wondering what the hell is happening and why the dragon came back. The creature faces the mage, who is in shock to see her attack has been blocked. Curdly is completely confused, wondering why the dragon is suddenly defending them. The creature then endures the rest of the ice attack, shielding everyone with its body. Kella approaches and touches the dragon, still shocked and unable to believe what's happening. In that moment, their eyes connect, as if a bond is being forged between them. He starts seeing strange images and wonders if they are the dragon's memories. In one of the visions, he sees a woman with a gentle smile who looked very familiar. It was his mother, and he realizes the dragon knew her. They used to play together in the water. The memories continue, showing the affection and friendship that existed between them. Suddenly, the dragon looks at him, and a voice echoes in his head, telling him to run. Kella is startled, realizing that it was the dragon's voice speaking in his mind. The creature then turns its head to the side, as if preparing to do something. With that, the dragon spits a kind of bright red orb towards the boy. Kella holds it in his hands and asks what it is, completely confused by the situation. The dragon's voice echoes again, explaining that it's his clairvoyance stone. He's speechless, wondering why the dragon would give such a treasure to him. The dragon says there's no time to explain, and tells Kella to hide his power and flee. Kella is shocked by the warning, questioning why he would have to do such a thing. But the creature insists, letting out a roar and telling him to hurry up and get out of there. Without waiting, the the dragon turns and fires a powerful blast of fire at the mage. The attack hits Curdly's barrier head-on as she shields herself from the blast's impact. She finds it very strange to see a dragon helping a demon, as it's not common at all. Kella realizes there's no time to think, and that he needs to use the chance he's been given. He yells for everyone to run while the dragon distracts the mage with its firepower. Curdly gets annoyed, wondering why such a strong dragon had to interfere right now. She understands this complicates things and that she'll need to come up with a new plan. The dragon glares at her with hatred, preparing to continue the fight and buy the group more time. Then, it unleashes another blast of fire, this one much stronger than the last. The attack completely engulfs the barrier, showing just how powerful the creature is. Mockingly, Curdly asks if that's the best attack the dragon can manage. She then says she'll have to try a little harder, and her eyes glow with mana. A giant magic circle forms in the sky, and the dragon braces for what's coming. From within it, an ice meteor begins to materialize, brimming with magical power. With her eyes glowing, Curdly casts her strongest spell to end the fight. The dragon unleashes its fire breath, trying to stop the meteor heading its way. It puts all its strength into the attack, but it seems like it won't be enough to win. Just then, the creature's eye glows, as if an old memory has come to its mind. It's a flashback of it sleeping peacefully beside Kella's mother many years ago. The woman was smiling, showing how strong the friendship and affection between them was. Back in the present, the dragon is filled with determination, ready to protect her son. The meteor hits the ground with full force, causing an icy explosion that freezes the area. The fleeing group stops and looks back as they feel the impact of the power. Kella wears a shocked expression, worried about what happened to his protector. The smoke clears, revealing a giant blood-stained block of ice where the dragon was. The creature has been defeated and is trapped in the ice as the mage slowly approaches. She doesn't understand why a dragon would help demons, finding the whole thing very strange. Curdly gets closer and says she'll look into the dragon's memories before it finally dies. But the creature lets out one last roar, and its body begins to glow with fiery energy. Then, an explosion of flames erupts, catching the mage completely off guard. The dragon's voice calls her a selfish and cruel human, showing all its hatred. It then warns that the day will come when she will regret everything she has done. With that, the creature explodes in a ball of fire, choosing to die rather than be captured by her. The dust settles, revealing the mage alone amidst the destruction caused by the final blast. Curdly realizes the dragon chose to take its own life, leaving her with no answers. She understands its sacrifice was to give Kella time to hide his presence and escape. The mage takes out a tracking device, saying that the situation has now become much more complicated, but she asserts that this won't change Kella's fate, which is already sealed. Then, mana butterflies begin to appear, spreading throughout the forest around her. Curdly says it's his destiny to be killed by the hands of the Talkans in white, and that's final. Now that they were safe, the group tried to figure out what was up with that crazy dragon that appeared. Wood then corrects them, saying the creature was actually trying to help Kella the whole time. Kella explains that he was able to see the dragon's memories and found out it knew his mother. Rin is confused since dragons and demons don't get along and wonders about their history. He says he doesn't know, but he felt a strange, melancholic emotion from those memories. Then, one of them asks if the dragon gave him anything, and Kella shows them the red stone. The group is in shock. Not only were they saved, but they also got the clairvoyant stone. Srills believes they were actually saved by the will of the former demon queen. Kella clutches the stone, wondering what his mother's relationship with that dragon was in the past. Without much thought, he decides Wood should have the stone, since they were lucky to get it. Srills agrees, saying the white Talkans have already found them and they need to prepare. Wood feels awkward, saying it's a very rare item and asks if he can really keep it. Kella insists, saying no one else there can use it and tells him to just eat the stone already. The elf then accepts the gift, preparing to consume the item and gain a new power. With that, he puts the stone in his mouth, ready to finally enhance his tracking skills. Without a second thought, the elf swallows the stone the dragon gave him. Suddenly, he feels an immense power, and a strange aura starts to emanate from his body. Wood then screams in pain as his eyes glow with a strong red energy. Then, the stone gives him a vision, showing him the dragon's past memories. It's revealed that, since birth, it was used as a test subject for human experiments. The scientists performed cruel tests on it, regardless of the pain the creature felt. The torture happened every day, with the poor dragon being endlessly cut and pierced. They would tear it to pieces, and just as it was about to die, they would heal it to continue. After centuries, its mind was already broken, and it had lost all hope. The humans even mocked it, celebrating that the dragon could no longer even cry out in pain. But, Just as it was waiting for death, the Demon King Turk Khaldun began his invasion. The old Demon King screamed that he would mercilessly kill every single one of those filthy humans. In the midst of the battle, the laboratory where it was imprisoned was completely destroyed. With the place destroyed, the dragon finally managed to break free from its prison. And that's how it escaped that hell, finally achieving its long-dreamed-of freedom. Finally free, the dragon could feel the freedom of flying through the skies for the first time. So, it begins to search for others of its kind, hoping for a new beginning. It tells the others about the cruelty of humans and suggests allying with the demons. But to its surprise, none of the other dragons believed what it was saying. You see, they already had a friendship with the humans and fought alongside them against the demons. What the dragons didn't know was that this friendship only existed because of sacrifices. The humans used dragons in experiments to learn how to approach their race. Moreover, they wanted to understand and steal the unique magic that only dragons possessed. But this truth was not accepted, as they already hated demons with all their might. And on the other hand, the demons themselves also saw it as an enemy in that war. Because of this, it ended up not fitting in anywhere, neither with dragons nor demons. Alone, the dragon begins to wonder why it was born into this world after all. It can't fit in anywhere, and feels like it can't do anything to change it. Without understanding its purpose, it decides to isolate itself from everyone and everything forever. With that, it surrenders to an endless darkness, living in deep solitude. There, the dragon just wasted its life, waiting for its end to finally come. It was just a lost soul, crying alone in the middle of the forest without any hope. But everything changed forever the day it met a girl named Cariste. The little girl was crying a lot, calling for her mother in the middle of nowhere, completely lost. The dragon was confused by the scene, not understanding why she was calling out to it like that. Then, the little one ran towards it, still desperately screaming for her mommy. She hugged its face tightly, thinking it was the one she was looking for. The little girl kept crying, releasing all her sadness and loneliness in that hug. It tried to say it wasn't her mother, but its heart felt something different. And it was in that exact moment that it finally found the reason why it was born. That child who suddenly appeared was a little girl named Cariste, Kella's mother. Using his magic, the dragon saw her memories and discovered they were just as sad as his own. While humans had used him in the past, demons had tortured her. They were an independent group called Tarsica, who acted on their own and with great cruelty. They analyzed dragon magic to learn how to dominate and subjugate their race. Tarsica would steal dragon eggs to use the hatchlings in their terrible experiments. As soon as Cariste was born, she was immediately taken by them to become a test subject. She had the greatest magical potential of all, and suffered more than anyone else in that place. Because of this, she could use transformation magic, the most difficult type that existed. And this was the main reason she suffered so much at the hands of that group. Cariste felt pain at every moment, but in the midst of all that constant despair, she managed to develop teleportation magic on her own, creating a chance to escape. The little girl managed to escape that hell and traveled for a long time, alone and afraid. She continued her lonely journey until the day she finally found the dragon. He believed she was drawn to him because of their similar cruel destinies. All the pain he felt for being born a dragon seemed to carry an enormous weight, but it was nothing compared to the happy life he lived alongside his dear Cariste. But one day, everything changed, and a strange confusion took over the dragon's mind. Cariste noticed the change and asked her master what was going on with him. He didn't recognize her, asking who she was, which left the girl very confused. The creature just stared at her, analyzing her form, which seemed to be that of a demon. With hatred, the dragon yelled, asking who she was and demanding she identify herself immediately. She became desperate, not understanding, thinking perhaps it was some kind of test, but he warned her it didn't matter, and that he would kill her without mercy anyway. The woman then screamed for her master as she was hit by a fire attack. The dragon just wanted to live happily with her, but his body wouldn't last like the others. Because of the experiments, his body began to break down when it reached its limit. Cariste, fallen, cried out, asking if he really didn't remember her anymore. At that, he seemed to come to his senses and finally managed to remember the name Cariste. With a glimmer of hope, she asked if he was okay now and if he remembered her. He apologized, saying with sadness that he didn't want to attack her like that. And that's when he realized that his body and mind were finally collapsing. Cariste was in shock, and the dragon knew he had to leave before he no longer recognized her. With a heavy heart, he flew far away, knowing he had to leave his beloved disciple. The girl was left behind screaming, begging her master to stop playing around and come out. But he never returned, and she cried in despair, screaming his name over and over. For Cariste's sake, the dragon went as far as he could so he wouldn't hurt her. Alone, he began to prepare for the end of his life, waiting for death to arrive. His last days were spent living on the happy memories he had with Karista, but he went through cycles of remembering and forgetting her due to his failing mind. He felt his memories fading and realized his life would soon come to an end. But one day, while waiting for death, something unexpected finally happened. From far away, he sensed a familiar energy that filled him with a strange feeling. On instinct, he began to fly, following that energy to find out where it was coming from. On the last day of his life, he finally found the source of the energy that was calling to him. The scene shifts back to the present, with the dragon being summoned by the power Kella released. He had been guided there to fulfill his final mission, to protect that family. And this energy, from Karisti's son, was the last thing he needed to feel. The only thing left in his memories was the unmistakable energy of his Karista. He saw her as his precious disciple, but deep down, the feeling was much more. The image of her as a little girl came to his mind, as if she were his own beloved daughter. So, upon feeling her energy again, he was certain it was a call. With a roar of longing, the dragon screamed her name, flying without a second thought. He followed that trail of power, going as fast as he could to find her. But in her place, it wasn't Kariste who was there, but a completely different boy. Even so, upon seeing the danger, he didn't hesitate to put himself in front to protect them. He used his body as a shield, saving those lives without even knowing why. However, he could feel a connection, and knew that this boy was no stranger. One look was all it took for him to realize that the boy was his Karisti's son, and through Kella's memories, he managed to see a glimpse of the whole truth. He saw that his little girl, whom he loved like a daughter, had grown up so much. She had become a mother, holding her son with all the love in the world. With a tear in his eye, he decided he would protect her precious son. The dragon fills with determination and vows to protect the boy with his life. He then uses his last strength and fires a final, powerful blast of fire. In his thoughts, he thanks Karista for giving meaning to his last days. At the end of his long life, he felt at peace for having lived by her side. He is happy to have been able to see her son at least one last time. With love, he says goodbye, telling her he loves her as if she were his own daughter. Back in the present, the vision ends and Wood cries, shocked by everything he saw. The elf then falls to his knees, still feeling the weight of those memories. Rin asks if he's okay, and he says he saw very long memories, but he explains that, like a dream, the more he tries to remember, the more they fade from his mind. Even while crying, he says that the dragon had a happy death and found peace. Kella is confused by this, wondering how that death could have been a happy one. He then concludes that the dragon must have met his end at the hands of that mage. The scene shifts to the battlefield, confirming the creature couldn't escape. A mysterious voice asks how he can't remember anything now. At that, Srills shakes him, yelling that he even cried while receiving the memories. Wood tries to explain, saying the ability might manifest gradually, but Rin gets annoyed by his lack of confidence, warning that he still has a long way to go. So Kella decides there's no choice. They'll have to wait for Wood's ability. He takes command, saying they need a safe place, and asks Srills for the map. The map shows the human kingdom's region, and the former location of the demon kingdom. Kella points out that they're right on the border between the two territories at the moment. After thinking for a moment, he decides heading south seems to be the best option. Rin and Srills are confused, questioning why they aren't going deeper into demon territory. He then reveals his father had a reason for sending him to the human territory of Arsal. Kella believes his father foresaw the massive human invasion of the demon territory. Srills agrees, remembering that after his father's death, all the armies united. Hearing this, Rin suggests they need to gather the demons to fight alongside Kella, but he quickly shuts down the idea, saying it's impossible now because he's seen as a coward. Kella states he doesn't have the power to rally anyone yet, since they all think the same of him. Rin tries to press Shrills, but she says no one can prove his royal lineage. She continues, saying she did things in Talkan for which it will be difficult to gain forgiveness. Kella then defines the first step: create a dungeon as a base, and he needs achievements. He declares with conviction that he needs to prove his strength to make the demons follow him. The girls get excited about the idea, thinking the plan to accumulate achievements is brilliant. Rin says that over time, the demons will naturally gather around him. That way, he'll prove his worth and become the next demon king. There's no better way. Kella returns to the map, deciding they'll first create a base in the south and a strategy. With the whole group excited, they shout together, ready to start the mission now. In his thoughts, Kella is relieved they are following his improvised plan well. He thinks he has finally gathered the companions he needed, but the danger is still great. The image of Curdley appears in his mind, as he knows it's dangerous to face the White Talcan. With a focused gaze, he realizes he needs more information about this world. He reflects that everything here, from magic to monsters, is familiar, and seems a lot like a game. He thinks that if there's a connection between this world and his past life, everything changes. With that, he will use the power and status of the Demon King's son to get what he needs. And he'll also use all the knowledge from his previous life to create a survival strategy. He's determined because there is a path to victory, and he can't die before then. The scene cuts abruptly to a demon village under attack and on fire. A demon with a child surrenders, begging for mercy and offering an alliance to the humans, but his plea is ignored, and an attack of dark flames hits him head-on. Deed appears with a cynical smile, asking if the demon said something because he couldn't hear. Another demon rebels, shouting that they're cruel for attacking after a surrender. Suddenly, a huge axe appears, as a voice full of hatred says the word demons. Audrey tells him to shut up and die, lunging at him with her axe without mercy. The blade is covered in blood, showing the blow was fatal, and without hesitation. Kalka then turns and tells his captain that the job here is done, but suddenly he's startled, as if he's seen something completely unexpected. The scene shows Killian, who hears from Curdley that a dragon helped Kella escape. Killian deduces they found him near the territory of the Earth Demons. Curdley reports that she is already using her butterflies to search for him in the surrounding area. He then concludes that Kella won't come to the demon territory, which has become a sea of flames. With that, Killian orders everyone to finish the job and meet where Curdley is. But Audrey gets angry, asking about the other demons and wanting to finish them all off right there. Killian tells her to calm down, warning that it won't be too late to do that after they kill Kella. He reveals his revenge, saying he needs to exterminate the lineage that killed his brother. The scene returns to Kella, who feels a strange, sudden chill that makes him tense. The group is now riding, and Shrills explains that the cold makes sense as they've been heading south for a week. Kella notes they haven't been followed by the Talcan and hopes to keep avoiding them. He needs time, at least until all his preparations are complete. Suddenly, the mounts stop abruptly, digging their hooves into the ground without warning. Rin gets scared and asks why the unicorns suddenly stopped running. Then Wood explains that the unicorns are refusing to move forward. Wood explains they felt they wouldn't survive in the environment ahead, but Kella assures them it's fine. He then decides they can send the unicorns back, as they've finally reached their destination. Wood affectionately says goodbye to his mount, thanking her and asking her to return safely. The group stands in the cold, watching some strange creatures running through the snow. Rin shivers from the cold, saying the weather is bad for everyone, but Kella thinks it's perfect. With a confident smile, he tells the group to find a good spot for their new base. The scene changes, showing the unicorns galloping back under the starry sky and full moon. As they run, a bluish butterfly of light appears, following the trail they left behind. The magical butterfly continues its flight, shining brightly in the darkness of the night. Far away, Curdley notices the unicorn's movement. They fear the cold and came from the south. She's intrigued by the fact that there are 4 of them, which really catches her attention. The group arrives at a beach, and Kella suggests that the cave on that island seems like the safest position. He asks Wood if he can tell if there are any monsters on the island, but Wood says his power only senses nature. Just then, Shrills points out some old boats, commenting that it looks like no one has been there in a long time. Kella asks if the boats are still usable, and she confirms they seem to be in good condition. The group then takes a boat, beginning the 200-meter crossing to the island. He notes that it's not too far, but the water is deep and the waves are quite strong. Kella thinks this makes the location perfect, as it will be easy to detect any approaching intruders. Arriving at the cave, he finds the entrance is quite wide and asks Shrills to use an illusion spell. "That's a piece of cake," she says, already raising her hand to cast the camouflage spell. With a purple glow, a checkered magical barrier begins to form in front of the entrance. The illusion then completes itself, making the cave entrance disappear completely from view. Inside, Kella comments that it seems to have been used a long time ago and decides to look around. A little further in, they notice the cave path splits in 2. Kella then turns and asks Wood for more details about the place's structure. Wood explains that there are 2 narrow paths that lead to a room and then meet up. He continues, saying that deeper inside there's a room connected to a small exit. After hearing everything, Kella suggests they split up to check both paths. Shrills quickly grabs his arm, asking if the 2 of them should go one way, but Rin reacts instantly, shouting no, and that she's the one who will go with Kella. Rin awkwardly explains that it's best for the 2 strongest to split up. Shrills agrees with the logic, so Rin takes the chance and says she'll go with Wood, looking very pleased. Kella gives the orders, telling them to check everything and meet in the middle. In the other tunnel, Shrills and Wood are walking, and she comments that the stones are lighting up the place. Wood explains they are light stones, created by a mage skilled in ice and light magic. Shreels then gives him a serious look and warns him that she still doesn't trust him one bit. He's completely confused, not understanding what she's trying to say. She says she's only traveling with him because of Kella, as she doesn't make new friends easily. Wood just listens in silence, processing the distrust she feels for him. The tension builds between them, Shreels' lack of trust clear in her eyes. Then he tells her not to worry, and that she can think of him as a mere slave. His response leaves her a bit stunned, looking at him in silence for a moment, but she turns her head and says bluntly that she really doesn't like him at all. Wood maintains his serious expression, unshaken by her direct statement. Meanwhile, Kella says it would be nice if they could make light stones too. Rin yells for him to watch out for a rock, telling him not to trip on it. He doesn't understand why she's so worked up, finding her behavior funny. Suddenly, a blue slime appears out of nowhere, hopping into their path. Kella is shocked and yells out, surprised to see a real slime in front of him. He gets super excited, since he's only seen slimes in games and has always wanted to touch one. But Rin is enraged by the monster's audacity and attacks with her dark magic. She shouts that she'll evaporate the slime for daring to block Master Kella's path. With her hands full of power, she prepares to finish off the monster once and for all. After defeating it, she looks at Kella as if expecting a compliment from him. So he just praises her good work, and she thanks him happily for the recognition. She promises to take care of anything that shows up, but Kella asks her to calm down a bit. Just then, the entire cave begins to shake with an impressive and frightening force. The two look up, startled, not understanding what's happening, and from the shadows, a giant stone golem emerges, with a glowing red eye. Completely panicked, they scream together, startled by the golem's appearance. Kella yells that the thing is huge, pulling Rin behind him and telling her to take cover, but she refuses to obey, baring her fangs with a look of pure determination. Rin remembers her promise to take care of everything and prepares her dark magic to attack the enemy. Meanwhile, in the other tunnel, Shreels is astonished to find something unexpected on the ground. She perks up when she sees it's a crystal necklace, looking antique and very expensive. Overjoyed, she puts on the necklace and asks Wood if it looks good on her, but he replies curtly, with a completely uninterested expression on his face. Shreels is clearly disappointed by his reaction, wondering how Rin would react. She imagines Rin complimenting her and the two of them going out together to look for more treasures. With that, she grumbles that she doesn't like any of this, preferring the other company. Wood remains silent, paying little attention to her discontent. Back in the fight, the golem attacks with everything it has, throwing Rin away with a single blow, but she recovers, believing that if she manages to destroy the golem, everything will be all right. The stone monster prepares a powerful blow, aiming directly at the little demon. The fist hits her squarely, with a brute force that shakes her body. With the impact, Rin is thrown backward, spitting blood and seriously injured. Kella shouts that it's impossible to defeat him without weapons, as their attacks are ineffective. But even wounded, she refuses to give up and shouts that she can still fight. She charges forward with her magic, yelling that she can still fight the monster, but the golem strikes her again, and she feels the strong impact of the blow. Kella shouts her name, asking why she's trying so hard. Even wounded, Rin gathers her strength to continue fighting the stone giant. She then shouts that this way, she won't be able to serve as his attendant. He doesn't understand anything, wondering what she means by that. At that moment, a flashback begins, showing the first time she entered the castle. Kella's father questions him, asking if he really wants to be friends with a servant. Little Kella, crying a lot, replies that yes, he wants to be friends with Rin, but his father reprimands him, saying that she is just a servant and orders the contract to be drawn up. Kella continues crying, while young Rin stands awkwardly beside him. Then, even though sad, he apologizes and appoints her as his attendant on behalf of the Khaldun. Little Rin blushes with embarrassment and thanks him with a smile. It is explained that she was happy simply because he wanted to treat her as a friend. That day, seeing him sleep crying, she made a vow to herself. She vowed that she would support him in becoming the greatest demon of all. With that, she promised herself that she would try very hard to keep her promise. But as time went on, things in the castle were not easy for them at all. Kella ended up showing himself to be a coward and a crybaby, always almost dying because of his brothers. And every day was the same thing, with him running terrified through the castle corridors. He would arrive crying to Rin, saying that he was scared and that he almost died again. Even when she tried to be cold and tough to see if he would become stronger, nothing helped, because in the end, young Kella never really changed. Because of this, she was always ignored and mistreated by the other servants. They forced her to eat scraps, saying she would die with Kella anyway. Poor Rin ate horrible food, and they even threw molten lava on her. Even at bedtime, she had no peace, having to stay alone and isolated in the stables. But even there, she wasn't safe, because the other servants would torment her during the night. They accused her of seducing Tarmi and threatened to hurt her with a sharp dagger. Completely terrified, little Rin begged them not to do that to her. It was during this time that she confessed to having begun to deeply hate Kella. She thought that because of the contract, if he died, she would die too. So, in a moment of desperation, she thought it would be better if they both died together. And with this dark thought, she tried to take both their lives at once, but her attempt failed, and she dropped the dagger to the ground, powerless. Kella had an absurd power of recovery, and she couldn't kill him at all. She fell into despair, wondering what to do, since she couldn't even die. They both cried together, and she gave up on everything, living as an empty shell. But Rin shouts that suddenly, he changed completely overnight. She continues saying that he became a totally different person than before. The Kella of today seemed much stronger and more confident, like a true demon. She shouts with determination that he now looks like the true heir to the great demon king. With this new motivation, she returns to the fight, blocking the golem's blow with her power. She laments, saying that until now, she has only managed to be a burden to him, and if she is to continue being a burden, she prefers to give her all now. She shouts that if it continues like this, she shouldn't stay by his side anymore. Her magic explodes with everything, raising a cloud of dust and debris from the cave, but the attack fails, and she falls to the ground, completely powerless to continue. Her face bruised, she begins to speak in a weak, sorrowful voice. Then she cries, saying that she never truly wanted to be abandoned by him. Kella simply watches her, listening to her outpouring with a serious look on her face, but the golem recovers and raises its fist, ready to crush Rin at once. She sees the attack coming, but no longer has the strength to dodge the blow. But at the same moment, Kella prepares an attack, concentrating blue energy in her hand. She then unleashes the magic, which goes all out towards the stone golem. Its power hits the monster squarely, causing an explosion of blue energy. He grabs Rin and asks if she's an idiot for risking her life to protect him. Kella then firmly declares that she would never abandon a servant like her under any circumstances. Rin is speechless, only calling out his name, touched by the declaration she heard. With a smile, he assures her that even if she tries to run away, he won't let her. Hearing that, Rin starts crying again, sniffling with emotion and relief. She then hugs him tightly, crying and calling out Master Kella's name loudly. He thinks that now he has all her memories, and knows that her feelings are genuine. With this in mind, he decides that for the sake of the future, he will make Rin the strongest attendant. In the other tunnel, they reached the first chamber, much larger than it seemed. Sreels gets excited when she finds a diamond bracelet and wants to show it to him. She immediately tells him she won't give it to him, even though he shows no interest. But then Wood gives her a serious look, asking if she doesn't know or is just playing dumb. She's completely confused, until the bracelet starts to glow in a strange way. Suddenly, the bracelet transforms, binding her wrists with a bluish light. Sriles struggles desperately to get free, shouting to know what the hell this is. Just then, she senses a dark presence behind her and is terrified by what she sees. A giant treasure spider appears, and she can't believe a creature like that was hiding there. She asks if that's a treasure spider, realizing the bracelet was bait. Furious, she yells at Wood for not doing anything to stop it as the spider advances. He defends himself, saying he thought she already knew and that's why he just watched. With no time to argue, the giant spider attacks her with its sharp claws. Wood keeps talking, saying he thought she had some other plan in mind, so he didn't interfere. She's furious with herself for letting her guard down and being unable to grab her staff. Panicking, she says she can only trust Wood, pretending she let herself get caught to test him. He's suspicious of her excuse, asking if she really wanted to test his strength. She insists she was caught on purpose, and challenges him to do something about it now. Without hesitation, he draws a dagger and says he'll free her from the cursed bracelet. He then tries to cut the bracelet with his blade, putting all his strength into it, but she screams in desperation, warning him that it's a barrier and can't be broken physically. He stops for a moment, realizing his dagger attack did nothing. Just then, the treasure spider takes its chance and spits green acid at them. Wood shields her with his body, warning that the acid melts anything it touches instantly. He asks what to do since there are no roots in the cave for him to use. Annoyed, Srill says she could kill the beast with magic and tells him to figure something out, fast. The spider wastes no time and launches another acid attack at the two of them. To save her, Wood shoves her aside, but his leg gets hit by the corrosive acid. The monster then prepares to deliver the final blow, its claws ready to strike. The spider's attack throws Shrills back forcefully, making her fall to the cave floor. Shrills becomes enraged, realizing the monster is targeting her because she's trapped by the barrier. The spider then raises one of its sharp claws, ready to finish her off. She grinds her teeth in hatred, feeling powerless against the creature, but Wood steps in front, taking the hit and leaving Shrills completely shocked. Even wounded, he says he'll do whatever it takes for her to use her magic. He then uses his own hand to absorb the spider's magic, and it screams in pain. With his dagger, he cuts his own hand, transferring the power to break the barrier. The blue energy explodes, and he finally manages to shatter the magic bracelet that held her. Now free, Shrills looks at her own hands, unable to believe she's been released. The spider shrieks in fury, seeing its prey has escaped the deadly trap. The monster then unleashes all its rage on Wood, piercing his body several times. Desperate, Shrills screams his name, witnessing the horrific scene before her. As he falls, he tells her it's her turn to fight and finish the monster. He looks at her with a serious gaze, calling her name in a weak voice. Shrills is paralyzed, staring at him with a mix of shock, rage, and despair. With Wood lying wounded, she summons her staff, which fills with purple energy. Shrills becomes furious, screaming about how a mere insect dares to mess with her like this. With her eyes burning with fury, she prepares to finish the monster once and for all. She then casts her spell, Purple Torch, engulfing the spider in magical flames. The commander raises her staff, unleashing an absurd amount of power at the creature. The attack is so powerful that the giant monster is completely disintegrated by the flames. After it's all over, Shrills is exhausted, showing how much energy she spent on the attack. Just then, she turns and sees Wood, despite being badly injured, trying to get up from the ground. Shocked, she asks how he managed to break the barrier that trapped her in the bracelet. Wood explains that he figured his own hand wouldn't be affected by the spider's barrier. She then asks what would have happened if he'd been wrong, implying he would have died. He replies that he didn't care if he lived or died, since she told him to help. Shrills falls silent, processing the immense sacrifice he made for her. Suddenly, a painful memory surfaces, showing her being pierced by a sword. The image focuses on the blade running through her body, revealing a deep trauma from her past. The flashback shows Shrills being stabbed, but she says she let the enemy catch her on purpose. With an insane smile, she confirms it was a trap and lunges at him with everything she's got. The instructor watches the scene, commenting on how she sacrificed her body to take his head. He then warns her that she would have died if the blow had struck her heart, but she says she didn't care, as the order was to kill him no matter what. The instructor is impressed by her stubbornness, finding her attitude interesting. Despite her injuries, he informs her that with such determination, she has finally passed the test. Back in the present, she thinks that Wood has the same indifferent look she used to have. She realizes he's exactly like she was in the past, fighting with everything he has. And then she understands that the boy risked his own life just to protect her. With her staff in hand, she approaches and tells him he has finally passed her test. Wood is surprised, and she continues, saying she will accept him as a companion. Then she gives him a direct order, telling him not to die so easily from now on. He's speechless, looking at her, shocked by her sudden change in attitude. Amidst the bones, he agrees to her order and says he'll remember it. Hello everyone! Did you like the story? I loved it. If you want to follow the next part, make sure to subscribe to the channel and leave a like. See you in the next story, guys.